Warning, the following program contains sensitive material that may be unsettling to some audiences. The Pedantic Pedestrians are not responsible for any injuries or paranormal activity that may occur during the viewing of this program, including, and not limited to, whiplash, bipolar disorder, a sprained ankle, or demonic possession. Viewer discretion is advised.
Two guns. Do you want to, encourage people to suspect the host? So funny, Chad.
When you see people laughing. Nah, like, pause it. What did he say? Whatever. It sounds like he said.
We're live?
No.
We're live.
Yeah. Chat takes forever. Even when I got everything.
Yeah, I mean, like that's
planned,
what everyone says when they have sex.
when they're
with me.
slow.
What?
Oh yeah, because Shad's a playboy. Say Shad.
At least you admit it.
Well, do you hear about Trump's new tariff plans? So, he really loves the tariffs. He loves them more than anybody.
Oh, movie industry?
Hollywood. Yeah. Because all the other, foreign film industries, they don't pay their fair share. Now, discussing how compounded tariffs are really going to fuck with the economy. So it shows that Trump really doesn't know what he's doing, and tariffs are an antiquated, pre-modern age sort of political tactic. Here, it's when you're making a movie, it's rare that all the production is just done in one fucking country. Usually, one, it's very common to shoot a lot of scenes and so forth in other parts of the world. And a lot of times it's a lot cheaper to shoot things in other countries. I mean, unless you want films to be done in a really shitty manner where everything's shot in front of a chroma key set. And a lot of times you have to outsource production overseas, and that's pretty much how all studios do it across the globe. But it seems like Trump wants to fuck with another industry.
President Trump's trade war could be hitting Hollywood. The president calling for a 100% tariff on foreign films and saying efforts by other countries to lure filmmakers abroad should be considered a
national security
Trump wrote in a Sunday post on True Social.
What's that?
It's a real threat to the country.
Yeah, I guess they're trying to interlace propaganda into American movies.
The movie
hurting
industry
people
in America is dying.
I thought they already were doing that.
Don't. When it comes to theaters, they're dealing with some issues, but that's because streaming services are kind of interfering with that market. So that has nothing to do with foreign films.
If anything, the movie industry is better like that anyways, though. They charge the same price and people just watch it from their house. They don't even have to worry about movie theaters existing and making deals with them. People just stream it for $20. I don't know.
Well, and before COVID, there was also you would see the movie in theaters and then it would come out on Netflix. And in that way, it felt like they got to release the movie twice.
Yeah.
But it's not just the fact that it's easier than ever to kind of emulate the theater experience at home. And then it's the option of watching the films at home, but it's also just television series or whatever you want to call them, streaming series, that's getting a lot more attention than ever before. So it's that's kind of replacing, or not replacing, but I guess people see the value, the benefit of being able to tell a story in a long serialized format as opposed to just telling it in a 90-minute, 2-hour sort of interval or single session. So the sort of series now are kind of getting even more of a budget, and they're getting even more attention than films. So that's starting to sort of I don't know, bleed into like the film market, but I guess they're kind of like intertwining with each other now. They're kind of amalgamating into like being one and the same. So people are talking about like Stranger Things, like the last episode of the last Stranger Things season was something like 90 minutes in length. And then Black Mirror, all their episodes are like an hour in length. So it's kind of just hybridizing. So Trump kind of shows that he's a boomer and he doesn't really understand how like the industry actually works.
Social, the movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States.
Don't you love how
the Department of Commerce to quote,
Remy also pointed out a lot of people just watch streamers now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Bisky.
Bill Hicks says that there is some sound anomalies here.
He doesn't know he's on drugs. What I was gonna say though is don't worry, he's on drugs. Don't you find it funny that he just conveniently doesn't ever look towards like, hey, why don't we tax the rich people more? It's like that might help. No, tariffs on
rich
everything.
People keep the country afloat.
Yeah,
it's the poor people that don't pay their fair share and those damn immigrants.
Yeah, like when someone makes...
Right. They keep the economy going because they create jobs. It all trickles down.
Yeah, it's like when a millionaire makes, say $30 million in a
billionaire.
Year. And they what?
Well, it's
billionaire.
Mostly billionaires that aren't really paying their fair share.
Or a billionaire,
a millionaire couldn't really cause problems if they want to. They've got a lot of money, but not enough.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Okay, let's talk about a billionaire who makes $300 million a year. He has to give.
That's not a billionaire.
How is that not a billionaire? If they have billions of dollars, that makes them a billionaire, right? You're a retard.
Okay? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Gene. I'm sorry. But anyways, if they make like $300 million a year and they have to pay, $150 million in taxes or something like that, they're a victim. They only made $150 million at the end of the year.
Well, you can't really survive off that much. I mean, and they're hardworking. Most of them are self-made. It's not like the majority of the world's wealth is inherited.
My daddy gave me $1 million fucking loan, a small loan of $1 million.
They should start by making good movies again. I say they still make plenty of good movies. I think that's a common misconception that it was in the past when films were actually decent. And
I say yes and no. I think maybe they did a little bit of a better job back in the day. There's a lot more schlock and 80s, lazy stuff because they figured out ways.
The 80s were pretty shitty. I'd say the 80s was a terrible decade when it came to film. That's something that a lot of people that grew up in the 80s like to glorify that decade. And everyone thinks the decade that they grew up in was the best decade, but the 80s, it's like they had Ghostbusters and Star Wars, they had a bunch of popcorn flicks, but there weren't really any sort of exceptional films, at least as far as dramas or epics went. So it's like you look at the 2000s and you had things like The Shawshank Redemption and Schindler's List, and I think the 90s you had Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, and so forth, or I don't know which years they are, but those were 90s, 2000s films. And then, the 60s, 70s, you had things like Lawrence of Arabia, but the 80s was a really shitty year, or decade, when it came to film. Which no one likes that. They all freak out, or at least people that grew up in the 80s like to throw a fit when you say that.
Of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies.
Ark is just dropping the poetry on us tonight.
This guy has horrible taste in movies. So The Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Fiction and Lawrence of Arabia are bad films. Maybe you have shitty taste in movies.
Damn, Gene, you told him.
Trump also knocking Gavin Newsom. The California governor is a potential 2028 Democratic White House hopeful.
We're making great movies now. Hollywood.
There's something whenever he speaks to a journalist, there's always film, or not a film, a jet engine going off in the background, or a helicopter going off in the background. I wonder why he likes to create all this noise when he's giving like some kind of address to journalists.
Governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff when movies should come in.
A Newsom spokesperson pushing back, telling The Hollywood Reporter, quote, looks like it's distraction day again in Washington, D.C. Hollywood is the latest sector to get targeted by the president's tariffs, leading studios scrambling to make sense of what this could mean for the...
But I want to hear what Master Link, what his definition of a good movie is.
Studios and streamers could take massive hits from any imposed tariffs. Major movie franchises such as Mission Impossible, James Bond, and many others are filmed overseas. Newsom has been making his own push to attract and retain film and TV productions in the state, proposing an increase in the film and television tax.
Okay, here. I gotta address this, like, nonsense of, oh, films in the past were the best films. Oh, God. I gotta go to Google. Talk to the chat.
Hey chat, my name is Shabisky, and I'm the greatest. Most people know that, but if you don't, now you know.
I'm getting messages now saying that we're having some audio errors here.
Are they trolling?
No, it's
well, it's Ark. I don't think he'd be trolling.
It's a little issue. It's not the end of the world. I'll fix it for the next show.
Talk to the chat.
But I'll talk to your mom. What's up, PT Ham? How you doing? Always cool to see you around. Hope you've been good, PT Ham.
Okay, so here. 90s. We got Seven. Barton Fink. So, definitely... And then the 2000s, I think that's like Shawshank Redemption and Forrest Gump and everything. The Pianist, that's in 2002. Hotel Rwanda, Requiem for a Dream. And then, Big Fish, Lost in Translation, Memento, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. City of God. I mean, that's probably one of the best foreign films of all time. You got all the Coen Brothers films in the 2000s, such as that's Quentin Tarantino and Glorious Bastards, Downfall. And then the 80s, you got, I guess, The Killing Fields, Once Upon a Time in America. Those films are decent, but Raging Bull. But most of it is just, shit like The Breakfast Club. I guess Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Terminator, but most of it's like action films and
it's like you said, a lot of popcorn films.
Oh, remember Blue Velvet? We watched that for the patrons. Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Back to the Future. So, I mean, I'm not saying there aren't any good films from the 80s, but they definitely don't have films that come anywhere close to the average level of quality of the following decades or the decades that precede it. So 90s, Schindler's List, American History X. I don't know, but it's only films of the past that are good. All modern decades suck. And the things, people in the 90s were talking about how all modern films suck. And people in the 2000s were talking about how all modern films sucked. It's just...
Yeah, there's always going to be somebody saying that.
Yeah, Fight Club, Goodfellas, Shawshank Redemption. The 90s are definitely far better than the 80s and the 2000s and 90s. I don't know, maybe the 90s were better than 2000s, but both of those decades definitely better than the 80s.
$1 million annually, more than doubling the current $330 million cap. Trump's tariff announcement has already rattled investors in Hollywood studios, with shares of Netflix, Disney, Paramount, and Warner Brothers falling ahead of the opening bell.
Films are the latest target for President Trump and his tariffs
Master Lane
announced a 100% import tax.
Because he's got, you know that you're talking to somebody who's really intelligent and who has a really good argument when that's all they know how
the
to
best arguments.
Yeah. rolling on the floor, laughing emojis, like just spam
Wrong.
D's.
Wrong.
Yeah, that's how you know that you're a person
gay.
who really knows your shit.
Gay.
On all movies made outside the United States. Mr. Trump said Hollywood was being devastated as more American
Yeah, they
filmmakers
stand by their original statement where they provided like no substance to support what they said, so they just had a shitty
he
like.
asked you what are good movies to you. Tell us some good movies, and you couldn't write that. That was too complicated.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say they like. I think that the reason why they disagree is because maybe they like the popcorn flick style, like the formulaic stuff of the 80s, which not all that is bad, but you know, Gene, you're definitely not the type of person that's going to be just wowed by like, you know, machine guns and explosions, but like
Bing bing boom boom.
Well, but like those movies from the 80s, it's not that they're poorly made, it's just that was what people wanted at that time. So the people that had the budget to do what was considered the best at the time, you know, they made like Rambo and Terminator and shit like that. And you know, I like the first couple Terminator movies, but you know, a lot of the stuff from that era is just like machine gun boom boom. Like,
yeah,
I outgrew that.
But I mean, so the 70s, they had Apocalypse Now, which that's one of my favorite films. One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Barry Lyndon, Chinatown, Badlands, Clockwork Orange, Taxi Driver. So the 70s, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So the 70s definitely far superior than the 80s. Deer Hunter, Days of Heaven, Eraserhead, the Godfather movies. But hey, clearly the 80s are the best. They got all the bing boom boom movies.
Studios work overseas. He accused other countries of luring film crews with tax breaks, calling it a threat to national security. The move comes as the White House is under mounting criticism over its trade policies, which have seen the president impose sweeping tariffs on countries across the globe. But for the president, this is all about bringing jobs back to the United States.
So the economy is already crashing, but what happens when like we completely go into a depression? What do you think the Trump tards are gonna like have to say once we get that?
It was
point?
Obama.
You crashed the economy to own the liberals.
No, it was Obama.
No, not Obama.
Yeah,
it's Biden's fault.
Or yeah, that guy. Never mind. The white Obama. It was him.
Well, he said,
White Obama.
White Obama.
White Obama.
Authorizing the Department of Commerce and the US Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. Well, the president gave more details about the reason behind that decision.
Our film industry has been decimated by other countries, taking them out, and also by incompetence, like in Los Angeles. The governor is a grossly incompetent man. He's just allowed it to be taken away from, you know, Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't do very much of that business. They have the nice sign and everything's good, but they don't do very much. A lot of it's been taken to other countries, and a big proportion. And I'm actually going to meet with some because, you know, there's some advantages, I guess, and I'm not looking to hurt the industry. I want to help the industry. But they're given financing by other countries. They've given a lot of things. And the industry was decimated. If you look at how little is done in this country now, you know, you think we were the ones. We used to do 100, not long ago, 100%. Now we do almost like very little. It's shocking. You in that business too, because he's in so many businesses. You could explain it, but it's
so Remy says
not a good situation.
Where is it? They don't really make good films anymore. Everything is about robots and the apocalypse. It seems nowadays. That's so in the 2010s. They had Dunkirk, Manchester by the Sea, Parasite, Boyhood, Birdman. They had all the recent Planet of the Apes movies. So there's plenty of decent movies in the 2000s. They had Hacksaw Ridge, 1917.
That was a good movie.
Tree of Life. And then recently, they All Quiet on the Western Front. What else?
The Count of Monte Cristo.
Kids of No Nation. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So the recent Dune movies are pretty decent.
Why don't you like that movie?
Oppenheimer, The Resistance. What's
Oppenheimer was good.
You never mentioned that when you mention good movies, you never talk about The Count of Monte Cristo, the one from like 2002 or something.
Well, I'm discussing films.
But you
from
never
the
seen that
2010s
film.
and
You need to watch
2020s.
that film.
Okay.
It's
So we're going to meet with the
film.
industry. I want to make sure they're happy with it because we're all about jobs. That's all. It's very important. It's a big industry, but it's an industry now that's it's really left. It's abandoned the USA where it started.
President Trump speaking a few hours ago. Well, will global cinema pay the price? We've had some reaction from key international markets for US films, such as India, which have been deeply concerned. Bollywood filmmaker Shekhar Kapoor said that over 75% of box office of Hollywood films come from outside the US, including India, of course, and significant part of the budget
Speaking of
films
Indian
spent outside the US.
it's recently in the past, it was like in 2019, it was Gangs of Wasseypur, and that was kind of like India. It's 5 hours long. They had to break it down in 2 parts to show it in theaters. But that, I would say, is a really exceptional film. It's like probably India's Goodfellas or City of God. So that's a recent film from another country, but it's from India, so it doesn't matter. You got to read subtitles. And there's lots of scenes where it's not just people shooting each other or fart jokes, so a lot of people
Or
probably
explosions or titties.
Yeah, there's drama, so
titties.
that equals nothing happening.
US. He said he thinks Trump's imposition of that 100% tariff on all films imported into the US may encourage Hollywood to move outside the US. Meanwhile, another well-known Indian filmmaker, Vivek Agnihotri,
Last year, was it All We Imagine Is Light? That was an Indian film, and that was a pretty decent movie.
says that President Trump's tariff on films was a disastrous move. He said if this absurdity prevails, India's...
Oh, and another thing is, the film industry suffered during COVID, and it's still recovering there. That has nothing to do with foreign film industries fucking up our film industry. So that's another area where Trump is just, everything's the immigrants, everything's the foreigners.
It's all the immigrants, it's all the foreigners.
We should just become like North Korea, where we're completely insular and we become a hermit state and no one's allowed in or out. Just build a wall around the country.
Industry would collapse entirely with no one to save it. Indian film leaders must wake
Somebody
up,
clip that.
unite, and fight this threat instead of chasing paparazzi and self-glorification.
How am I sucking off India? I've done nothing but criticize India the last several streams.
Yeah, stop it, James.
Well, North America business correspondent...
Did I not
Aaron
talk about how
Delmore-
fucking corrupt India is? And I had a bunch of, like, people who left comments and stuff, Indian viewers, that were talking about how, like, I'm an apologist for Pakistan.
joins me now. We'll
Well,
get more
yeah,
reaction
that's
about how
true.
this might impact the UK film industry in a moment. But first of all, Erin, let's set the stall out. How bad is the state of the US film industry?
I like how he followed it up with
This
buy
change of policy.
PPP coin, though. That was a nice
Film
touch.
production in the U.S. is down 40% from where it was a decade ago. And another survey that I encountered this morning was showing that jobs in the film industry, including TV and movies, were down 25% since the year 2022. Now, let's talk about some of the touchdowns here that have really...
yeah, so much estrogen in here. So it looks like we got our first big Trump tart in the chat tonight. And you know that they're going to give some pretty, like, formal and esoteric arguments. They're going to be just, you're gay. Yeah,
Tom,
you suck. You're wrong because you are.
Tom, are we betas and you're, you're an alpha?
Yeah.
I'm guessing the answer is yes.
Cue
right?
the vocabulary. You're a beta. I bet I can beat you in a fight. You're a virgin.
Alpha, bro.
Hey.
TV and film in the U.S. Certainly, the COVID pandemic kept people from going to the box office and halted production on some of these big films and indeed on smaller projects as well. And we also saw the actors' strike in Hollywood as well, which also put a halt on some production too. Now, President Trump is targeting an industry that is set to haul $248 billion in spending in the year 2025. And sure enough, we have seen production go overseas. A lot of places have been able to lure production based on tax credits or reimbursements or cheaper labor. But Regina, if we thought that it was complicated to unpack how tariffs would work on the North American car industry,
They're
which sees
exploiting other countries for cheap labor. It's
coming in
proof
from
that
around the world
we
to
have
cause
to
assembled in the US.
exercise tariffs.
Say, well, just imagine a film production where there could be scenes shot overseas, actors hired from other countries, all kinds of moving parts that don't observe country lines and country borders. That's how complicated a picture we're talking about.
Okay, Erin Delmore in New York, thank you very much for that. Well, we talked a bit about concern from filmmakers in India's film industry, Bollywood. Let's turn to reaction here in the UK as British filmmakers are warning that freelancers in the industry are at risk of being jobless if US productions
British
are
ever
pulled.
make
Well,
any
Philippa Charles,
decent movies? I don't know. Remember Dunkirk? That was a decent film.
Was 28 Days Later technically a British film?
Lobster. That's one of my favorite comedies. Chad
And the British technically
because,
made my favorite film.
Yeah. Shad liked The Lobster when we watched it with a group of people that all enjoyed it, but because Shad's a sheep, when we watched it with retards like Raisin Girl, who thought it was boring, Shad then plays the I thought it was boring game.
Calm down, Gene.
His head of Bectu.
There wasn't enough poopy jokes in it.
For broadcasting, entertainment, communication, and theatre. And she joins me now from Guildford. Welcome to
soundtracks for
British films. Never Let Me Go.
Yeah.
That was a really good upbeat
It really
movie.
inspired me.
BBC News. What do you think the impact of these tariffs will be on
If you're really depressed and you really hate life and you're feeling like ending it, Never Let Me Go. That is the movie to watch.
Well, good evening. Yes, it could be quite devastating. I think we're all trying to currently get our heads around
next film or next short.
Good evening. It is closed due to its high operating costs, but tonight President Donald Trump says he has new plans for one of the Bay Area's most notorious historical landmarks, Alcatraz Island.
Okay, so this administration how much do you want to bet this is just he knows of Alcatraz? It's like this sort of pop culture, sort of common knowledge sort of location. And it's not because of any sort of logistical reason, or maybe it's cheap to renovate the prison on the island and so forth. It just comes down to, oh, Alcatraz, I know of that place, so let's open it up again, when there's probably 1,000,001 derelict prisons in the country that he could utilize, or they could just build a new prison, because it's probably going to be pretty costly to renovate Alcatraz. Plus, it's a major tourist attraction and San Francisco, and it really benefits all the local businesses. So this is just another example where he clearly doesn't care about the middleman. He's just, every decision he makes is a detriment to the economy, whether it's a local economy or it's the national economy, global economy. But because it's Trump, we're going to have a bunch of alphas who are Trump sycophants that are going to support it.
To reopen and expand the prison, and once it's rebuilt, he wants to send the nation's most violent offenders there. NBC Bay Area's Marianne Fava reports from San Francisco.
Chad has gotten up and left. First time doing the stream.
Speaking of movies, we should reopen Alcatraz. It'll be huge.
Wants to see prisoners return to the infamous island penitentiary. The president posted on Truth
Good modern movies. A lot of the Clint Eastwood movies, like $1 Million Baby, Gran Torino.
Yeah, he's written a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, the other one, American Sniper. That was him. So if you want a list of really good modern films, just look up all the Clint Eastwood films that he's directed.
The Bureau of Prisons, together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz.
It's a symbol of law and order. And, it's been history, frankly.
In front of some helicopter jet engine again.
So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
Alcatraz closed back in 1963 because it was too expensive to operate. Now it is one of the most popular national park tourist sites in the nation. But President Trump wants to house the nation's most ruthless and violent offenders at Alcatraz.
It's an absurd, ridiculous, deranged idea.
California State Senator Scott Wiener says if the president...
But Alcatraz is well known, and Trump knows about it. It's not because he's a dumb fuck and he just doesn't understand basic fucking logistics where maybe they could build a new prison and some more desolate area where it's or the federal government, they own so much fucking land, and there are so many areas that are kind of in the middle of nowhere where they could easily build the fucking prison if they want to use it as a federal prison for some of the worst criminals. But instead, they're going to take this national sort of landmark that really benefits the local economy, and they're going to interfere with that.
His plan, it could hurt Bay Area tourism and area businesses.
If he actually does this, in addition to the fact that we would then have a prison gulag in the middle of San Francisco Bay, this would be very bad for San Francisco and for the Bay Area. Alcatraz is one of our top tourist destinations.
In a statement posted on X, House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi responded, saying, quote, Alcatraz closed as a federal penitentiary more than 60 years ago. It is now a very popular national park and major tourist attraction. The president's proposal is not a serious one. Governor Gavin Newsom weighed in, saying, looks like it's Distraction Day again in Washington, D.C. San Francisco resident Zahidul Islam says in disbelief the president is even considering
with that big tourist attraction and all the fucking tariffs, it's definitely going to benefit everyone there.
Alcatraz, given the costs.
Instead of kind of opening up another prison, let's figure out how to maintain the existing one, or even optimizing this existing one so that we don't spend so much money.
It's unclear how much it would cost to renovate the Rock, but a spokesperson for the Bureau of Prisons says the agency will comply with presidential orders. Currently, Alcatraz is operated by the National Park Service, welcoming approximately 1.2 million visitors a year. Al Capone served time here, and it has long been a source of intrigue. Now the new mystery.
It's attracting tourists, and a lot of tourists, they're not from America.
Ew.
They're like, yeah.
I don't trust those
They're
people.
Foreigners.
Gotta get him out of here.
Is what will happen to Alcatraz in the future. In San Francisco.
Get him the hell out of here.
NBC Bay Area News.
I'm Matt Gelka in Washington. The United States and China are set to have high-level talks this weekend that could cool some tariff tensions. Hope springs eternal on Wall Street, with the United States and China ready to talk tariffs and trade this weekend. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and other top trade officials plan to meet with their Chinese counterparts in Switzerland Saturday and Sunday.
Look, we have shared interest that this isn't sustainable, as I said before, especially on the Chinese side. And 145%, 125% is the equivalent of an embargo. We don't want to decouple.
People in Trump's cabinet are starting to call him out on the tariffs. Like,
Spent multiple days on the Hill this week in front of House committees answering questions about various Trump trade policies.
Has President Trump given you the authority to finalize any trade agreement with China or any other?
Sounds like the foreigners, see? They're infiltrating our government.
That's a very non-American accent.
They're going to outbreed all the white Americans, and then white people won't be a supermajority anymore. And then, oh my God, then we might not have all the benefits of falling within the supermajority, like, demographic.
We'll have the final decision on any trade agreement.
The Trump administration's decision to hit China with a 145% tariff on goods was met with a 125% tariff from China on American goods. The back and forth has put the economic relationship on ice. Shipments have slowed along with Chinese factory outputs, and some retailers are warning about supply shortages for the year because of the trade war.
We were losing with
Trump's making even our closest allies hate us, so I don't know. How long do you think it's going to take us to recover after Trump's second term? And he's already selling Trump 2028 merchandise.
He's selling Trump 2028 merchandise while saying that he has no plans to pursue another term. So he's very much talking out of both sides of his mouth. But it's like, you know that's bullshit. Like, you know he wants that power.
But what if he, ratifies the Constitution so he can run for a third term? Then he can be like Modi and Putin and Xi Jinping, where he fucks up the current system and pretty much becomes a forever head of state.
If that happens, I'm moving to North Korea.
Yeah,
great idea.
At least they know how to do like sort of insular, immigration policy the right way.
Mm-hmm. $1 trillion a year, more actually, 1.1. But let's say
if you want a country where no one gets in or out, and you don't have to deal with any immigrants stealing your job, just go to North Korea.
Saying they have nothing. That's not bad.
A trade deal with China may not be imminent, but investors see talks as progress.
This is about de-escalation. It's not about, I think, coming to terms.
Yeah, real patriotic Americans love Trump. Yeah, and maybe your real patriotic Americans are dumb fucks. Did you ever think of that? Maybe patriotism is just being a sheep and not thinking critically.
Trade deal, but it's a good first step. At least they're talking, and that's a positive. Investors like that.
China has also been trying to persuade other countries to not cave and make deals with the United States, as it could end up isolating China in the trade war. Analysts will be on the lookout for whether or not the U.S. or China blinks first following the meeting.
I see Crow in the waiting room, by the way.
Who invited this guy? What do you want, Crow? They don't even say anything.
You just want her to come pass out.
See, this shows, like, do you think them starting a fire, chanting death, they're terrorists? They support terrorists.
Certainly.
Yeah.
We are doing genocide!
Please clear the See, this shows that liberals, when they don't get what they want, they riot. You don't see that from Trump tards. Like, it's not like when Trump doesn't get his way, they riot or whatever, like raiding capitals and stuff. Never see that
Yeah,
from...
they never attack government buildings.
Get to the police! You can be subject to arrest. Again, you can peacefully protest on the west sideline. Do not interfere with these officers. Do not get in their way. Abolish the police! They're real strong! Every cop dead is a victory for the resistance!
Oh my god, this is fucking cringe.
Yeah, yeah, not a
the
fan.
Right way to support a cause.
A soldier killed is a victory against colonialism!
Yeah, especially fuck that.
Yay! I get to go out and support a cause!
And some breaking news to tell you about right now. Within the last few minutes, Columbia University directing NYPD onto their campus to remove protesters who refuse to leave the school's library. Now, you can see police officers, some of them even in riot gear, removing some of those students in zip ties and right outside clashes.
They're all wearing
police
masks like a bunch of terrorists.
Protesters turned violent with those heavy metal barriers being pushed into the air. And this is what the scene looked like inside Butler Library a little bit earlier. Students protesting in a standoff with school public safety officers. The school saying 2 of those officers were hurt. Outside, a large group of students gathered earlier, attempting to force their way into the library.
Dude, look at them hurting the police. Because it's not like we've seen, like, rowdy Trump supporters who have assaulted cops before.
School was a site of those incidents last year protesting Israel.
The Trump people never attack police.
Yeah. It's almost
They're the
like,
law and order.
January 6th, isn't there, like, this
We
famous
ain't
video of them slamming a cop and, like, with a door?
Yeah.
I mean... No, but I think that's fake news. That was all AI generated.
Target of President Trump over allegations of anti-Semitism. Let's get right over to NBC's Emily Aketa over at Columbia University right now. Emily, I saw something happening behind you right before we came to you. What's the situation looking like right now, and how many people have been removed?
Well, Gotti, those arrests are still...
Yeah, Cheb, how many more times are you going to step away from the camera within the span of less than an hour?
Gene, I don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking
Away
about.
as we
I've
speak,
been
so-
here the whole time.
Why do you get up far more often than most people? Yeah.
I don't know what you're
Far,
talking
I've counted
about. I never
78
left.
people ushered out by the NYPD of the library, which you can see behind me just ahead
was just
of
using
finals
my
week.
green
They're
screen.
largely walked out in twos, flanked by police, their hands behind their back, tied with zip ties. One protester had just shouted "Free Palestine" as they had been ushered out by the police. This comes after demonstrations flooded into the school's library earlier this afternoon. Columbia University posting a series of updates and statements, first saying that for the protesters who refused...
So this is where, when it comes to protests, I do think that protests or protesting is kind of antiquated now that the internet exists. And like, if you want to write an article criticizing some kind of policy or institution, I mean, it's easier now than ever to get it out there. Plus, there's things like, I don't know, streaming. But how much do you feel like when people protest, they just do it for clout? And then if you
Or because they're angry and they want to join a crowd that's screaming and scream with them. Hey, there's the crow.
And then if you interview them about whatever the issue is, they always have the most limited sort of understanding of the issue.
refused to leave, who refused to provide identification and disperse. They could face possible arrest. Well, several hours later, they called in the NYPD, and that is what you see behind me. There are barricades, there are special response teams who have been going in and out of the library that university officials say have been occupied by protesters. It's not just tension spilling over inside of the campus, but also outside, maybe about 50 yards or so from where I'm standing. You might even be able to make out the demonstration still underway right now. But earlier, there were some serious physical clashes.
Next vid.
Well, Shirley and Corey, right now, some of those pro-Palestinian demonstrators are still circling the neighborhood here outside of Columbia University. But this was where it was most intense before. You can see here behind me a garbage can knocked over. It all started when Columbia University
Yeah, they vandalized the garbage can.
No, not the garbage can. They say many of those were not students. But in the end, more than 75 people are arrested tonight, and 2 public safety officers are injured.
See, this is why you had to open up Alcatraz. Look at all these people we got to find, all these thought criminals.
This is how the library occupation ended at Columbia University. Dozens of police in protective gear escorting a busload of protesters away from the Butler Library. And this is how it started, around 3 in the afternoon.
Pretty much all of a sudden, they started an uprising inside the library. They started putting graffiti on walls and apparently also emptying entire bookshelves.
This recent Columbia graduate
Gravity
marched
on
from West
walls.
114th Street as the Butler Library was taken over by the
They're
demonstrators.
putting
yelling,
gravity on all the walls. No.
Shut up, Flub. But yeah, that's how you get people to support a cause and take you seriously. Just vandalize a bunch of property. And it's like what I said previously. A lot of people that on the left and the right that go to protests, they just do it for like fucking clout and a virtue signal and be part of a crowd. If they really fucking cared, if you interviewed them, they'd be able to give you actual sort of textbook information on the issue. They'd be able to discuss the history. They'd be able to discuss all the like facts and stuff regarding the current issue. But most of them, they just have like this basic headline sort of premise that they can regurgitate, and then that's where it ends.
That it gave all of the people inside the library the opportunity to show ID and then leave if they wanted. Those who refused were at first taken into custody by Columbia's public safety team.
They slammed my head into the ground. That's what happened.
As the evening drew on, the NYPD
Yeah, and people need to understand, like,
Officers
actually
in protective
being able
gear
to
entering
make
the
a
library.
decent
Demonstrators-
argument matters more than just holding up a sign and protesting. Like,
But you get to make a bunch of noise and get out and stuff.
you don't make your
You get to be part of something.
Yeah, you don't make your side look smart by not being able to argue at all, like logically around.
But you make your side look smart by vandalizing the library, knocking bookshelves over.
Yeah, gravity and all the walls and stuff. That's no good.
Yeah,
it's no good.
Demonstrators outside the university expressing their frustration that students and others
Punching
were being
each
arrested.
other with a bike rack. It's crazy.
Columbia University said in a statement in part that requesting the presence of the NYPD is not the outcome we wanted, but it was absolutely necessary to secure the safety of our community. For students who were not protesting, it was a day lost from studying for final exams.
As someone whose finals were disrupted last year around this exact time, I think it's
and apparently over half of people that attempt college drop out or don't graduate with a 4-year degree. So I think maybe the ones that spend time, vandalizing libraries as opposed to studying, I don't think they fall within the demographic that's actually graduating.
It's actually unfortunate and almost a disgrace to the university, to an elite institution, to not be able to put it under control after a year.
You know what? She sounds like Foreigner. See? Again,
Yeah,
they're
get rid of
infiltrating
her.
the country. Yes.
Send her to Guantanamo or something.
Okay, we covered this enough.
I was in the Walmart.
What
I had to rip my baby out of some other man's pants because he was trying to touch him.
This dramatic 911 call
Chef.
detailing what sounds like every parent's worst nightmare.
It all happened so fast and he was out of the store.
It allegedly happened here at this Walmart outside Atlanta. This security footage shows a woman identified in a police report as 26-year-old Caroline Miller on a mobility scooter with her 2 kids when a man approached. But what happens next is at the center of a kidnapping case that has drawn international attention. Miller told police that an Indian man approached her and grabbed
It's Indian. It's Foreigner. Again. They're everywhere.
It all comes back to India.
and pulled him away. Miller did not return NBC's request for comment, but detailed the alleged struggle to local station Atlanta News First.
And I'm like, no, 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 what are you doing? What are you doing? And I got him back and then he just stared at me and then goes,
You think she voted for Trump?
Definitely.
Yeah.
oh, I just wanted to get him out of your lap so you could get up and help me. Which was weird. That didn't make any sense. And then he just walked off.
That man was eventually identified as 56-year-old Mahendra Mik Patel, a real estate investor, retired engineer, husband, and father of 2. Police arrested him and charged him with kidnapping of a minor, assault, and battery. He's been in jail now for nearly 6 weeks. But now Miller's account is very much in dispute.
When I finally got the video, I was upset that Mr. Patel was still in jail.
Patel's attorney, Ashley Merchant, says the evidence in this case shows something very different.
Walk me through what that video showed when you finally were able to see it. I see the video and I'm like, how is this happening?
Do you think this is a false report, false allegation from a Karen?
Sounds like it.
It's starting to look like it.
You know, how was he even arrested?
Merchant provided NBC News with over 9 hours of surveillance video from various cameras inside that Walmart. In the video, you can see Patel approach Miller. According to the police report, Miller says Patel asked her where the Tylenol was. Merchant says that as Miller stands up to point to where the Tylenol was, her 2-year-old son slips from her lap. Patel says he tried to help stabilize the toddler. Miller alleged something different in that 911 call.
I was in the Walmart and I had to rip my baby out of some other man's hands because he was trying to catch him.
After that, the video shows Patel walking off, and he's later seen approaching.
So, who are you going to trust? Some, like, sort of Karen that sounds like a white trash, like, sort of trailer park trash cunt? Or some old, like, Indian dude who's, like, an engineer?
You're trying to poison the well, Gene. That guy's a
sort
foreigner,
of.
probably.
One more
He's probably a foreigner.
He's an infiltrator. Taking our jobs.
By the way,
As
Marco,
an engineer, I'll tell you, it's really hard to find work. It's not like in America, like your sort of like STEM particular trades are in short supply and everything. Like there's a lack of people to fulfill those roles. So a lot of times we require work from people from other parts of the globe, but I don't know.
I mean, every grocery store has cameras at like every angle.
On the Tylenol, she appears to give him a thumbs up.
But I wanted to address somebody from the chat. Marco, Israel is objectively an apartheid state. Sorry, go on.
Oh, we'll get to Israel later.
Well, I know. It's just that it came up in the chat.
Almost 45,000
I didn't want to ignore that person.
Change.org petition calling for.
How much do you want to bet that person in the chat if Trump called out Israel, and if Trump was telling Netanyahu he needs to stop, he wouldn't be supporting Israel?
Justice for Patel.
And what was his original reaction when he got arrested? Because he probably did not see that coming at all.
He was shocked. He could not believe it. Angry.
Hasmukh Patel has been friends with Mahendra Patel for almost 40.
See, they're everywhere. It's just yet another person who doesn't sound like a typical American.
I don't like that.
They're infiltrating our country.
Years. He's been talking to him on the phone every day from jail.
He cannot believe it that he's in for the things that he did not commit.
The Acworth Police Department did not respond to NBC's request for an interview, but we went to the Cobb County District Attorney's Office and a spokesperson told us there's a lot more to the story, but because it's a pending investigation, we can't comment. For now, Merchant and Patel's friend says he's angry but is willing to fight these charges until he can clear his name.
I mean, imagine being in jail knowing you didn't do something and then having a video that shows you didn't do anything, but hearing that your government is still going to keep you in jail. I mean, that's very disheartening.
And NBC's Priya Sridhar.
What do you think?
That's very true, young man. White people are not going to stand out there in that weather.
So, do you think this particular Karen's full of shit?
I mean, according to the cameras, she 100% is.
So do you think she just made the claim for, like, you know, attention, being a drama major? Drama for the sake of drama?
Joins us
Wouldn't be the first time I've seen that happen.
She gets to hang out with her friends and tell them all that somebody tried to abduct her kid.
The real question is, do you think
like little
some damn dark skin went after her kid?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is the real question is, do you think if it was a white guy, she would have done the same thing? I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't think so. In-group, out-group bias, Gene. I taught you about that.
Yeah, Shad's my mentor.
Finally, he admits it.
You're in great hands.
Center where Patel is being held. Priya, I understand Patel will have.
Tonight, hundreds of supporters celebrated as a judge-granted bond for 57-year-old Mahendra Patel, released after spending 47 days in jail.
It was a shocker. In fact, I didn't even realize why they were arresting me in the first place.
Patel is charged.
Dude, somebody's like still talking in that embarrassing beanie.
I was just about to bring that up.
Why do people from Japan care so much that I'm wearing a beanie?
They really love talking about our hats.
Yeah.
Napping of a
I gotta look up some sort of fashionable headwear or like hatwear in Japan, and I gotta start making fun of that.
Assault and battery. After Caroline Miller says he attempted to snatch her son at a Walmart outside of Atlanta on March 18th. But new surveillance video has put the entire
he's
incident in
racist
question.
too.
The
Well, they are
footage
racist.
provided to NBC News by Patel's attorney shows Miller on a mobility scooter with her two kids when a man
Gene
approached.
is learning, finally.
According to the police
Wait,
report,
what was their
Miller
last comment?
Their last message says the dark-skinned drug addict in the corner says nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm pretty sure that they're racist too.
I think you need to, I don't know, pay more attention to other countries across the globe because I don't know, Crow doesn't seem that dark-skinned.
Asked her where the Tylenol was. Patel's lawyer says that as Miller stands to point to the Tylenol section, her 2-year-old son slips from her lap. His attorney saying Patel tried to stabilize the toddler, but Miller alleged something different.
I had to rip my baby out of some other man's hands because he was trying to touch him.
Miller has not responded to NBC News' request for comment. The video then shows Patel walking off, his attorney pointing out he's later seen approaching Miller to show her that he had found the Tylenol as Miller appears to give him a thumbs up.
At the tail end of his interview, he said that he wanted to apologize to her for what he had done.
But the district attorney's office had a different take.
This defendant reached down and grabbed...
But our returning Japanese viewer in the chat, why do you have to, I don't know, engage in so much hate? Why are you discriminating against our, sort of hat wear? And why are you calling Crow dark-skinned?
Are we sure that they're talking about Crow?
I don't even know where that comes from. It's a white-ass looking black dude. Or brown dude, I don't know.
Why are you being racist?
He's pale as shit.
Did they say specifically that it was Crow?
I don't know.
They
probably
said
talking
the
about
dark-skinned
me.
person and the baby.
The they said dark-skinned drug addict in the corner says nothing.
At night and attempted to pull that child from her lap.
The prosecution also pointed...
Wait, okay. Got another comment from them. See, somebody says, what's happening? We got some returning Japanese viewer who keeps saying hateful things to us, and he's hurting
I
our
want to
feelings.
pay attention to what I want to pay attention to. A virgin wearing a beanie and milking a girl.
Wow. Milking a girl?
That sounds neat. You want to milk a girl,
Pointing to Patel's criminal history, convictions in 2013 for felony conspiracy to accept bribes, and more recently for reckless driving.
I don't know what they mean there exactly.
The judge deciding that Patel was not a threat to the community.
I think this is the first step in the right direction.
And Priya joins us now from Marietta, Georgia. Priya, what else did Mr. Patel have to say after he left court today?
Yeah, Allison, it was kind of interesting because you would think that someone who...
He said, what the fuck?
People, the generic insult on the internet is, I bet you're living in your mother's basement. So in Japan, what is it? The grass eaters, the hikikomori. They get all upset because they, I guess,
You probably
don't
wear hats
achieve
on
much.
live streams.
Well, they don't achieve much in the workforce and so forth, or education. They bring shame to their family, and then they become withdrawn. They read all the manga. Is that dude in the chat? Is he a hikikomori?
A dark-skinned man in the corner appears to be basking in the sunlight and says nothing. That's what his...
I don't know. Who thinks they're a hikikomori? The American or the Japanese variant of a fedora beard?
wrongfully arrested.
That sounds about right. Isn't that in Otaku?
Crow, well, they think Crow or Shibisky are dark-skinned. And isn't it like one of the stereotypes of the hikikomori? They're very pale. They won't get out much.
Have some sense of anger or bitterness, but the feeling overwhelmingly that he exuded was that of gratitude towards both his family, also his defense attorney and her team, and also the overwhelming amount of support that he's received from people around the world. As I mentioned, there were hundreds of people there at the
Okay. It's their latest comment. Got a reply.
Today, and 47,000 people.
That was what their latest comment
petition
said.
demanding for his release and justice. Now, I did ask him if he believes that race was a factor in his.
I don't know. It just popped up in the live chat.
This case
Oh, we got another one. That's what John saw.
Yeah.
Also said how he felt about Caroline Miller making those accusations, and he said he has no idea why.
Keep up with this dick, Shibisky.
Those things, but
Manga is written for white people. Well, he's right there. And manga is written for white people.
Well, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, I knew. I didn't think you would.
Yeah, manga and anime. It's like I said, the fedora beard, like sort of stereotype. They never shut the fuck up about anime.
he was excited to go home, take a shower, eat some home-cooked food, and then in the future, of course, clear his.
So our Japanese viewer in the chat, I just want to know, anime. Do you think anime characters look white? because when you talk to anime fans in the West, they're always like, no, they only look white because that's you, like, projecting, like, I guess Western appearances on it. It's like, you gotta agree with us here.
Their username is Imperial.
Huh.
That's what that translates to.
Imperialist.
That's not sus.
Allison, Priya Shriever,
Dude,
thank you.
You should, what is it? Shapupo? You should do that to themselves. What is
Seppuku?
it? Seppuku.
Seppuku.
Go seppuku yourself.
Go play Sudoku.
Dude, what is it, Crow, where they...
It's seppuku.
Seppuku, yeah.
Attorney for Mahindra.
So they either...
Thank you so much for joining.
Seppuku yourself in Minecraft.
In the ritual...
Tonight. I want to start...
In the ritual, it's if the samurai doesn't open his own belly, there is a guy in the back waiting. Just if he is cowardly, he'll just chop the dude's head off.
Imperial says, discovering commonalities among white anime fans. You have something in common with this dude after all, Gene. You both hate anime.
The hearing. What was?
Yeah, fuck anime.
Reaction to being granted bond and ultimately leaving jail today.
Oh my gosh, he was just so happy. You know, he hadn't hugged his daughter or his wife or any family members in 6 weeks. So he was just really happy to be out.
Dude,
you know,
but anime, it's not just a cartoon from Japan. It's a style. It's more than that. See, there's this very complicated formula. There's 1,000,001 bullet points of qualifiers that need to be met for a cartoon to be anime. Yeah.
I didn't realize that when he was arrested, it was winter. And I asked him, you know, do you have clothes at the jail for them to change you into? And he said, yeah, but when I was taken into custody,
But Rick and Morty, that's my favorite anime.
Winter. So, you know, he was in a thick sweater and, you know, sweatshirt. And it's like, you just kind of forget how long 40 some days are.
So when did you first start representing Mr. Patel? And in terms of this area, this period of time where he was behind bars seemingly without any sort of due process, is that your understanding of what had happened thus far? When did you come onto this case? And do you believe that he was held in detention without
Wow, that's so funny, Shad.
I thought I heard...
The first thing you said, this... Oh my. Bad, Shad.
PennDOT offices in Cumberland County are dealing with long waits as real ID enforcement gets underway across the country.
Yeah, Fox 43's Matt Klein spoke with people getting their IDs today and answers the most frequently asked questions about real ID.
Got some real ID enforcement going on. We got to screen everybody to make sure they're not some of those illegals.
Illegal humans.
Local driver's license centers with papers in hand
So our
to secure their brand.
Japanese dude in the chat who agrees with us on anime sucking.
On anime. Yes. On weed.
What do you think? Do you think Japan, they need to invite more, like, foreign workers in the country to deal with the aging population? Because, you know, seems like South Korea, Japan, they have a very, they're in a very tenuous situation with their aging population, their declining birth rates. They're doing worse than China. In China, they had that one-child policy going.
In China, they literally kill the babies.
In Minecraft.
Wait, is that...
Or no, in the
okay.
countryside.
Yeah, in their country.
I've been here from 12:30.
Because I hear in Japan, they love diversity even more than the United States.
I don't know about that.
Call around close to 3.
Hundreds of people waited for hours.
Actually, no, because they consider somebody like Shab or Crow to be dark-skinned.
Driver's license center in East Pennsboro Township as the U.S. begins its real ID enforcement. Many people say they're getting real ID in preparation for the TSA line at the airport.
I was concerned, like, oh my gosh, we need to get as soon as possible.
I'm going on a trip in like 2-3 weeks, something like that, to Florida, so I need a real ID.
I just processed what Shab just fucking said.
Going forward, people will be required to show real ID in order to board a domestic flight. The Department of Homeland Security says those without real ID will still be allowed to fly after receiving extra screening.
The goal is the staff is not to prevent anyone from flying today. However, there could be delays or things like that getting to your flight, especially...
White people and Korean people should know that we hate them.
Wow.
Dude, I was just having a conversation with Ark earlier because we were doing the, like, stereotypical, like, Japanese voices, you know, replacing, like, L's with R's and stuff. But like we were talking about that, but we were also talking about how funny it is when Japanese people are racist to white people. And then here I am, like less than 3 hours later, and I got a Japanese guy talking mad shit. It's awesome.
So, our friend from Japan, why do you hate white people so much? What's wrong with Koreans? Dude, I like how, so there are people in the United States that like to act like, yeah, America, racism pretty much only exists here. And then in the United States, we like to look at race like you're either white or you're black.
Asians get a pass because their racism is funny.
Americans would view like Japanese and Korean as just being Asian, just being the same race. And they don't understand how throughout much of the world, they don't view race as being that wrong.
Well, also, like, the whole Asian countries, they like, hate other Asian countries as well. So, like, Japanese hate Koreans, Koreans hate the Chinese or whatever, and the Chinese hate, like, the Vietnamese or whatever.
It's like rock, paper, scissors, but with racism.
What's with all the hate?
Show real ID.
Dude, the entire world hates one another.
To enter federal facilities like military bases as well as nuclear
damn
power plants.
others.
Those others.
Okay. Oh, got another comment.
Yeah.
Different.
I don't know. Mongolia, somebody mentioned that. That's a beautiful country. Like the countryside.
Because Americans are overweight. Because Americans are overweight, undisciplined, unread, and uneducated. Dude, we found Japanese gene. You got to get your own beanie, Imperial.
Well, I'm not overweight, so why are you generalizing? Not all Americans are overweight. I got a decent level of education.
Yeah, I'm super educated.
No, Shab, you suck.
I'm the most educated
with PennDOT
ever.
says Pennsylvanians.
I can't say shit. I'm a college dropout.
Passport.
Damn, see,
I'm a
I don't
high
know.
school dropout. Only went to high school for 2 weeks.
I got plenty of cool
do not
work
have to have real ID
credentials,
to drive
but
or vote.
You don't need a real ID.
Yeah. What about Crow? What's your background? What's your level of education?
Yeah.
I got my high school diploma. I graduated high school.
I graduated high school early, but that doesn't really matter.
What is it? 2 out of 4 of us are high school dropouts, and 3 out of the 4 of us have no college education. And then I'm the only one with a college education. God, you guys are making me look bad.
I was an economics major, but couldn't afford to go to school.
But I do agree that America, we do have a problem with people having lack of education. We do have an issue with obesity.
Why is Bill Hicks being mean to me in the chat?
What does Bill Hicks have to say?
He said I'm regarded.
He just said
Bill Hicks is so nice. Even nicer than our Japanese viewer.
Bill Hicks is so mean.
Apply for and receive federal benefits.
But our
enforcement
friend
begins.
from Japan, what's your level of education? What's your particular job?
PennDOT officials say they will continue helping people become Real ID compliant.
We're going to have 57 centers open, and all we're going to be doing is processing real IDs.
Matt Kleinden's Fox 43 News.
Well, first of all, let me just comment on the amount of media attention and internet attention, social media.
It's videos are out of order. This on the dude earlier, Mr. Patel, who was falsely accused of kidnapping. So should that particular woman, should she be charged for making those kind of false allegations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anytime I have a case similar to this that I do not watch local news,
proven, like,
if I'm in the Marietta,
basically without a doubt that story, you know, that she's just fabricating stuff there, then yeah.
Well, her claim is that he was trying to like take her son or one of her kids or whatever. Why would you come back? Yeah, why would you come back? And even if you're trying to apologize, I mean,
she gave him a thumbs up and stuff, and that's the part where it's like, yeah, she just continued acting casual with this person who supposedly just tried to kidnap her kid and she didn't run off to call the police or something immediately. or tell the manager or something. She just continued shopping, and
but apparently, 40 minutes went by from the time apparently the attempted kidnapping took place, and when she called the police. So it wasn't until he found the Tylenol and checked out and left where she actually made that report.
And she was still shopping or something like that?
I don't know.
Anything that leads me to believe this might be my case, I don't read it. I don't look at anything on social media.
Yeah, it's like
but I must
false
say that it's
rape
impossible
allegations.
to not see that it's out there, and it's been very difficult
for that shit.
No, women never make that claim, which, to be fair, most claims are legit, but this is a good example of how people don't understand how statistics works, because it's something like 18% turn out to be false claims, and that's almost 1 in 5. But people are like, oh, 18%, that's closer to 0. So you might as well just blindly assume that every single claim is completely legitimate and not hold it to any
that's stupid. Like if every time
or you're sexist.
If every time you got in the car you had an 18% chance of dying, you wouldn't get in that fucking bitch. Like 18% is a lot, really.
Well, you know what? COVID, it only had a 4% mortality rate, and 4 is a small number.
By the way,
yeah.
Imperial says that they work for a robotics company.
Ah, well, that's cool.
You asked what their employment and education was.
It wasn't 4. It was 2%, and I remember the video you're mocking.
I've done my very best.
Still, 2% is a lot when you're talking about a huge. Yeah, we already went over that before, but yeah, when they're talking about.
So, are you a fellow engineer, Imperial?
You make bridges.
I'm going into this on an even keel with the state and the defense. I'm looking at this man bond. He's entitled to a bond based upon even the alley.
Okay, so this was in Shabisky's neighborhood, his neighborhood.
Yeah, I could have been on this.
Has been getting a lot of attention on social media, so we decided to separate the facts from the feed. It started with a scroll.
Vegas tourism is dying.
A place like Las Vegas is going to be the first to fall.
Videos of an empty Las Vegas strip.
We know that travel and tourism is down.
Online comments about how expensive it's become.
Ha ha, Shabisky, your place sucks.
While the videos make
well, I will say, the last time I went to Vegas, which it was to hang with Shab, it was pretty desolate. There wasn't much going on.
But that was right after COVID or whatever. Though.
Yeah.
So
but it seems like after COVID, yeah, it definitely didn't fulfill the one of those cities that never sleeps.
Yeah, it was really weird because we actually were up at 2, 3, 4 a.m. or whatever, running around, and most of the places
on the strip.
Yeah, we were on the strip, and we were like, yeah, let's go get some food. And we go to the lunch, everything's closed down. And stuff like that. We can't. It was hard to find any place where we could get anything. There were some stores and stuff, but for the most part, everything was just shut down once it hit I don't know what time. I want to say midnight or something. It was retarded.
Oh, and when we had the meetup in Baltimore, on the harbor, that was more populated than when we were on or at the Strip in Vegas.
Yeah, the only cool thing about it was just less people.
March, that's down near.
But it was lame that places were all closed.
8% from last year. Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority says a lighter event calendar and economic uncertainty may be playing a role, but visitors still love us.
I think it's still pretty busy for, I guess you could say, the slow time. I've spent money like a maniac.
At the same time, convention traffic is actually up. More than 500,000 people came for trade shows in March, showing business tourism is holding strong.
I don't see a downfall at all.
Still, it's hotel numbers that tell a mixed story. Occupancy is down slightly, especially midweek. Room rates are up, but revenue per room has remained flat.
What we're looking at right now, we think, is just a downturn in business for a period of time. Used to be a pretty normal thing. It does not mean that the public should extrapolate that into being COVID-like or Great Recession-like. There's no evidence that it'll turn into something like that.
What we still don't know are potential layoffs looming. I reached out to MGM, Caesars, Wynn, and Resorts World asking, are people being laid off and what departments are impacted? So far.
Do you think all the tariffs are going to fuck with the economy in Vegas?
Yeah. Only MGM responded, telling me they've closed some of their concierge desks, shifting to more digital and self-service options. As for those employees, they say they've been reassigned.
During an earnings call on Tuesday, Caesars reported they don't anticipate the Las Vegas
That's the
market
place I
softening.
stayed at when I went to Vegas.
That if they did, they have measures in place to combat that. On Wednesday, MGM held its own earnings call, sharing it had a decent
Do you think,
Q1,
like, all
though
the
some numbers dipped compared to last year,
license
mainly
checks
because
and stuff that's like slowing down air travel that might fuck with tourism in Vegas, and then deporting all the immigrants, and now people, even if they're coming to vacation, like the UK and a lot of European countries, put out like some kind of travel warning when it comes to traveling to the United States. So do you think maybe that's gonna fuck with tourism overall? It seems like there's so many great things Trump's doing that are really gonna benefit the economy.
It'd be the best economy I've
2024
ever
had a
had.
big boost from the Super Bowl being in Las Vegas.
It's there! Hardman! Tourists are no longer going
I said you're the greatest, James.
to Las Vegas for the summer.
So is Las Vegas facing economic trouble right now? After years of record highs from tourism numbers to rising real estate values, some economists say our city may be settling into a new normal, and only time will tell what the future will bring. In Las Vegas, I'm Elizabeth Betancourt.
Do you like this new normal, Shad?
So him and I was
I'm fine with
The best normal ever.
South Arlington Road.
I actually saw this video earlier today.
See, in
That cop looks like
America,
Aaron Rodgers.
yeah, in America, even the raccoons are addicted to meth.
Very nice.
I was
Dude,
parked up
meth
on the
raccoons?
my
Finally. I've been waiting for this to come out.
Occupied by the people inside of it. Pulled into the parking lot, and he was adjusting his vest. And I just happened to be looking that direction at the time, and the two female passengers up front.
So I know that
thought he was turning
there
around
are
them.
monkeys and even orangutans in different parts of the Far East where they get addicted to cigarettes, and they'll do things like they'll steal people's handbags, or they'll try
And
to
look
steal
for cigarettes.
Yeah, and they'll like actually collect and hoard lighters and so forth. And then there's even cases of chimpanzees in American zoos that will smoke cigarettes, and the zookeepers know that they keep hoarding contraband and getting a hold of contraband somehow. So I don't know. Kind of are fucking the planet up, and we're fucking up like Mother Nature when all our animals are getting hooked on nicotine and meth.
And so they both looked the opposite direction.
The kids ain't even smoking cigarettes no more.
Windows. They had a picket fence on their passenger side windows, the front and back. So he gave me the plate, and I ran it. And I was able to confirm that the female driver was suspended and had a warrant for arrest as well.
Wait, so do you think the raccoon just has done this before? And they actually know how to, I don't know, light up the pipe and everything?
Right.
It's a funny idea, but I think
When
it literally
I posted
is
across the street-
just investigating the item, and it happened to hold it in that manner when investigating the item. There's no clue
See,
about
but it's still funny.
Yeah.
Steve, talking about Americans being fat fucks, this raccoon's pretty fat.
Waited for the vehicle to come out on Arlington. Initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle, made contact with the driver who had the suspended license and the warrant for arrest. Placed her under arrest, detained her for the warrant, walked her back to my car, and then when I went up to the vehicle, we found the raccoon.
Somebody says, we make their armored vests. Vegas just out us, or just cut us off. And there is no American companies making the vests in the U.S. What country are you from, Peppy?
Preppy.
Yeah, driver's seat with a
What is it?
Preppy.
Oh, Preppy.
Raccoon had dug a hole.
I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm sorry. I got to switch.
Preppy Tory 3000.
Bag that was on the driver's
What's that?
Preppy Tory 3000 is her name.
seat as well. Inside of it were the meth pipes and the 7 bags of crystal methamphetamine. I was talking to the male and female. The male had contacted his father
think
to
this
come up
guy's a
to
skinhead?
arrange transportation for
Yes. Yes.
Definitely looks like it.
the other female and the
Well, he is a
two dogs in the
cop,
vehicle as well.
so the likelihood of him being a racist Nazi is fairly high.
And while I was doing that, I noticed the raccoon Chewy.
Does he beat his wife too?
Okay.
When I turned to look inside.
A show of force on the streets of Sanaya. The Syrian government deployed reinforcements after armed groups targeted security officials and civilians in the town southwest
Yeah,
of
so
Damascus.
it's Syrian civil war far from over, because now that the one militia that was backed by all the Arab or Gulf states has taken over, all the other militias, like the Turkish militias and the more Islamic extremist militias are still fighting for control of the capital.
The fighting started late on Tuesday and continued into Wednesday.
We entered the area upon a request from civilians and due to presence of outlaw forces affiliated with external and internal actors. We entered the area in order to enforce our authority. The outlaws have been dealt with, and we have restored our control of this area and those inside it.
Fighting in the predominantly Druze town destroyed homes and businesses. The Druze are a minority Arab sect that emerged in the 11th century. They are spread across Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel. Officials say the situation has been brought under control and that people have nothing to worry about.
The operation ended Wednesday evening with the neutralization of the outlaw group, the arrest of most of its members, and confiscation.
Was it Syrian, Democratic Front, or whatever the name of his militia is? There's 800 fucking militias. So we went over this before. This is one of the longest wars in a while, and it's the deadliest war since the Second Congo War. And yeah, the United States, Britain, France, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Israel, all of them were backing all these different militias surrounding Damascus and Aleppo. So it's one big clusterfuck.
Of its weapons and the imposition of security throughout the town.
Sahnaya is not the only town that witnessed violence this week. On Monday, there were battles in Jaramana, another town near Damascus, between residents and armed groups. The fighting started after a leaked recording reportedly of a member of the Druze community insulting the Prophet Muhammad. The Interior Ministry says several security personnel were killed while bringing the violence to an end. People in the town are calling on the government to do more.
We count on the government and security institutions to play their role in controlling the rogue groups.
And ISIS kind of surfaced in the middle of the Syrian civil war. And there was a ceasefire between the U.S. and Assad's regime to deal with ISIS. And then after that, Assad had used chemical weapons. And then the U.S., Britain, France ended up sending all their aircraft carriers in to bomb all the chemical weapon facilities. And now, I guess that ISIS was dealt with in Syria. Now that the Al-Qaeda have taken over, or the Taliban have pretty much taken control of the government of Afghanistan, they're having a massive ground war with ISIS. And now the militia that was able to take control of Syria, they're having a massive ground war with all the other militias.
We're trying to destabilize the situation, not only in Jaramana, but in all regions.
A heavy security presence remains on the streets of both Sahnaya and Jaramana. For now,
when it comes to all these militias that are still fighting over control of the country, why do you think all these militias exist to begin with? Yeah,
extremists getting their hands, extremists and terror groups getting their hands on weaponry.
It's because the government's corrupt and they're fighting back, Gene.
No, it's because all of the other countries abroad, Iran, Russia, Israel, the U.S., Saudi Arabia, they've all been funding all these different militias that all have different agendas. So it becomes one big clusterfuck. And even though Turkey and the U.S., Israel, they're all allies in this particular conflict, all of them have tried to fund various different militia groups. And now you have all these militia groups that all exist, that are all butting heads with one another. Because maybe that's a problem when, I don't know, you fund 20 different militias all at once.
There is a telescope. Has Muhammad, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
The violence may have abated, but the aftermath has been difficult for residents of this town south of Damascus, which saw 2 days of intense sectarian clashes.
The situation was very difficult and the damage was extensive. As you can see, the shopfront and some items inside were affected.
The town's governor said that a ceasefire agreement had been reached Wednesday night to put an end to the fighting, and security forces have been deployed to keep the peace. The clashes erupted between Syrian security forces, allied fighters, and local Druze groups, sparked by the circulation of an audio recording attributed to a Druze citizen and deemed blasphemous. Syrian authorities distanced themselves from the attacks, blaming them on outlaw groups. But the latest violence has only hardened fears among minority groups about the Sunni Islamists now in charge, and follows a series of massacres on Syria's coast in March, where security forces and allied groups killed more than 1,000
So did our
civilians.
Japanese fan leave, or was it imperialist?
Yeah, Imperial seems to have left, but I've been watching the chat for their messages.
I'm wondering, like, so he hates America and he hates Koreans. Does he hate Syrians? What are his views on Syria and Israel?
Well, if they're still here, they'll probably respond to that.
There would be no sex.
What are his views on India?
No sectarianism, that we would be one people. I don't know what is happening. Why this killing? Why this attack on the Druze? Why this attack on the Alawites?
Israeli forces were seen along the Israeli-Syrian border in the occupied Golan Heights Thursday, a day after Israel carried out a strike in Syria, claiming to protect the Druze community. Israel has launched hundreds of strikes on military sites in Syria since Bashar al-Assad's downfall, and sent troops into the demilitarized buffer zone in the Golan Heights. In a statement, the Syrian Foreign Ministry vowed to protect all components of society, including the Druze, and expressed
Foreign interference. I mean,
but it has to contend with.
I don't know who isn't interfering in Syria. Seems like every fucking country on the planet getting involved.
Right. Within its own ranks, including from radical fringes of its armed forces.
Since the ousting of Syria's President Bashar al-Assad in December, clashes between the new government's armed forces and insurgents from the country's minority groups have been frequent. In March, the violence was savage.
And this is a good example
Alawite minority community in the coastal
supporting coups, supporting regimes to overthrow another government. It never fucking works. And it's similar to how the war between Russia and Afghanistan, where we pretty much funded the particular rebel groups, which led to the birthing the Taliban. So it's the same thing here. All these different militias were being funded, toppled the government. Now they've toppled the government, but now we've birthed all these other armed forces. And a lot of them are probably just going to become more. They're going to become like just another ISIS, another Taliban, another like sort of Houthi militia. Never ends. You cut off like 5 heads of the Hydra, and then like 25 more sprout.
Coming under attack, human rights groups estimate some 900 civilians were killed, an apparent response to a series of deadly raids on security forces
How many
by
civilians did they say?
with the former president's Alawite minority community in the coastal region. Coming under attack, human rights groups estimate some 900
a lot of
civilians
civilians who were killed.
An apparent response to a series of deadly raids on security forces by rebels loyal to
Okay,
the
so we're going to get to what's going on in India, but Modi has conducted a bunch of, or ordered a bunch of airstrikes because of that terrorist attack that resulted in 26 casualties. So these two nuclear powers, India and Pakistan, are butting heads over a couple dozen civilian deaths. But then we go to this part of the globe and it's like 900 people dead here in this one militia attack. And then you go to Israel and it's like 300 dead in this one bombing. Up another library, school, hospital bombed. 90 people dead, 200 people dead.
No big deal.
In America, every week, it's like, here's another shooting. 20 people died in the shooting.
Takia has been largely sealed off since, but Lucy Williamson and her team has managed to visit the area and track down one of those allegedly involved in the violence. Her report includes distressing footage of the attacks.
When violence exploded along Syria's coast, Snowbar was right in its path. Witnesses say more than 200 people were killed here in March by armed men targeting members of Syria's
900 there, 200 here. Maybe the 200's part of that 900.
Sect. 2 months on, many survivors are too afraid to return home or speak to us openly.
I know Assad, when they toppled his regime, they found all these sort of Nazi-esque concentration camps of people who are just malnourished skeletons.
He was throwing them into mass graves when they died.
Came around 6 p.m.
He would even throw people into mass graves when they were still alive and then just leave them there.
Somebody put in the chat, Jews, question mark?
Uh-oh.
What do you mean? We're not, none of us are Jewish.
Only Trubisky.
Don't know what they mean by Jews, question mark.
Jews, question mark?
I doubt anything good.
We begged them not to kill them. They said, "You are Alawites, pigs," and shot them in front of our eyes. We kept the body inside the house until we could bury them.
Videos of the killings, many filmed by the gunmen themselves, are now key evidence for
Now,
prosecutors.
Trubisky's Italian, so chances are, or he's ethnically Italian, so chances are his ancestors got along very well with the Jewish people within their land.
Okay.
On the back of the bike is known as Abu Khalid, the man who...
How do I feel about him? I don't have any issues with people who are Jewish in the same way I don't have any issues with any group. I try not to look at different ethnic groups or religious groups as a monolith, and I like to look at each person on the planet individually. So I think I judge a person who's Jewish based on that person alone, and I like to judge people individually.
Is 64-year-old Mahmoud Youssef Mohammed. We tracked Abu Khalid down to a military police facility in Idlib. He was keen to talk, telling us that Syria's security forces had allowed armed civilians like him to travel to Snobba to help battle insurgents, a claim denied by the military police.
Is that young-minded?
The General Security Department told us not to have any civilians, but only to...
So, am I being racist? Young-minded. You got to agree. This guy kind of looks...
at us. It was a large group, and the General Security oversaw things so that no one would vandalize the village or harm the
They say
residents.
word. So,
He told us he
Captain
had
Mello
killed
seems to agree with us.
Mahmoud in self-defense, and that the 64-year-old had been armed. But the video he filmed doesn't support his account. Look at the camera, he says, before shooting Mahmoud 3 times. There's no visible weapon near Mahmoud. You didn't die, he asks. Mahmoud can be heard begging for his life as Abu Khalid shoots him again. But when Abu Khalid weeps, it's not for Mahmoud, or even for himself. It's for his brother, killed in a bomb attack by Assad's forces in 2018.
Young-minded says, well, Gene is not racist, but the people in the community are. Huh.
Right above that, Shabisky isn't a Jew, he's a gypsy.
Yeah, everyone knows that about
Him
me.
as his soul left his body. They ignore everything that happened in Syria before, the bombing and the killing, and they focus on the video I filmed.
He insists he didn't kill Mahmoud in sectarian revenge. If I was going for revenge for what they did to us, I wouldn't have left any of them, he said. Mahmoud's house sits right at the edge of Snowbar, beside the highway where former regime fighters launched deadly attacks the previous day. Mahmoud's family told us that his body
So
lay
we
here
still
at the
owe
entrance to his-
people the deep dive on pirates, the deep dive on, like, internet brain rot, and maybe I should do a stream that's like a deep dive on the Syrian civil war.
That sounds like
3
a
days
fun
before they were able
episode.
to bury him.
Yeah.
They told us he was a farmer with a military background who'd come out that day to check on the family home after smelling a fire nearby. Residents, many too scared to return, told us that several armed groups rampaged through their villages that day, foreign fighters, civilians, and factions now supposedly under government control. The region security chief told me any violations were isolated acts by
Now-
individuals.
A lot of these weapons that you see are probably funded, or they were purchased through American funding, or they were provided by Americans or different NATO states. So that's the thing. When you see a lot of these wars overseas, a lot of times it's like the weapons are pretty much granted to them by Russia, the U.S. There's probably like
China.
China. There's probably like 8 countries that are getting involved in these proxy wars, providing all these like arms and munitions.
His face is covered after receiving threats from Islamic State jihadists.
Those who were proven to have assaulted civilians have been arrested.
Okay, if this is a good guy, why is he covering his face with a mask?
Affiliated with the government security forces or the civilians who came to help. They were arrested by the military police.
Do you accept that some of your forces may have been involved in this?
These were individual cases, and they were arrested. After the situation was under control, we began removing all the rioters and arresting anyone who had harmed civilians.
Government forces are now building trust in Alawite villages by promising protection from the government's own extremist allies. But they're also eyeing a continued threat from thousands of former regime fighters hiding in these hills. Syria's stability depends on the transfer of military control, not just political power. But until a few months ago, many of Syria's new security forces were rebel fighters with different opposition groups. And the enemy they're disarming is not a local militia, but an army. The future of Snowbar is a test for the future of Syria. And whether its new Islamist leaders can hold this wounded country together without resorting to the repression of the past. Lucy Williamson, BBC News.
So, in America, when do you think we're going to have all the redneck militias?
We already kind of do,
Yeah.
but I know what you mean.
Kinda. Yeah. When are we going to have a massive ground war where all these other states abroad get involved, and like Russia starts funding and giving weapons and training to certain militias, and yeah, you got the Democrat militia or the liberal militia, you got the redneck militia, the MAGA militia.
There really be like a liberal militia, or would it just be like normal people trying to like just fighting off the retarded ass right wing militias?
It's going to be like the, I guess, the literate STEM militia that are in hiding with all their like drones and stuff.
The literate finished elementary school militia.
LGBTQ militia.
They're not going to be on the front lines with their guns and shit. They're going to have like the kamikaze drones that go in, drop off the C4, and there you go.
These simulations, the memes by now. One gorilla, 100 men. Who would win in a fight? The internet.
Who wins in a fight? 100 men versus gorilla. No weapons.
This shit.
So,
gorilla.
You think the gorilla?
Are all 100 of the men wearing like shoes or something?
Let's say they're completely clothed.
Okay.
What about you, Shad? Who do you think will win? God, Shad's slow. He takes forever to fucking answer.
I think it depends. If the 100 men are aggressive and crazy enough, I think they could win. But the 100 average men, like in America, we'd lose. It would have to be some like
UFC fighters.
Like vicious, strong, like UFC fighters or something. Because if you
all
can
Americans
damage,
are fat, so. What if it's just 100, 600-pound men, and they just kind of flop on their stomachs, and then they do like the they do the dough roller. They all roll into the gorilla.
I think 100 is too high of a number for the humans to have on the gorilla for it to really be a conversation. You know what I mean?
Well. My thing is,
that would be I'd agree with that if there was weapons involved, but it's just men with their hands. I think a gorilla would run through and destroy 10 men in the matter of fucking seconds or something like that.
Here's my thing: they need weapons
real quick. I don't know.
So if they don't have any materials and stuff, they could still use the severed limbs of their other fallen humans.
And they ripping off each other's arms.
Yeah, or if it gets ripped off by the gorilla, and then
the gorilla.
If it's like I don't know, severed in a way where it's splintered and stuff, pretty sharp. If you look at gorillas and chimps, it's like their anuses and stuff are very exposed, so they just need to use it as a lance and lance the severed limb to bone up its fucking anus. You think that would do it? And I think
let's think about this one for like really long.
I think like the eyes, that's another vulnerable region. So if enough like humans or whatever are able to climb on the back or whatever, dogpile it, you just got to get in there, get both of those eyes, really dagger it in, like finger their fucking eye, and you got to blind the gorilla. What do people in the chat think? And isn't it like a gorilla? Each one of its limbs or whatever is capable of lifting like 200 pounds. Something like that. So you figure, like, Americans are a bunch of fat fucks, so the average one is like roughly 300 pounds probably, so
right.
You just need to get 2 dudes on each arm.
That is starting to sound gay. Go on.
Gorillas aren't built for a long fight. They're like sprinters. They explode for about a minute, and then they gas out hard.
Man, I'm taking that gorilla. Man, do people know how big those silverback gorillas are?
Surround it, distract it, get on it, you know what I mean?
How are you going to kill it? I haven't heard one logical response or explanation because obviously no tools are allowed.
If we have 100 men out there who are willing to die, give me the men.
100 men versus a silverback gorilla. I want to see 100 men versus a critical thought.
Okay, here's what's not a critical thought. Let's visualize this for a little bit. We're talking about a 400-pound animal that can grow up to 6 feet tall. According to the experts, the average silverback gorilla weighs somewhere between 5 to 10 times, or is actually 5 to 10 times stronger than us humans. And just like
we all know, the average American weighs like 400 pounds.
mostly guys. We have spent way too much time today thinking about all of this, to the point that we actually created a very unofficial
Did you know 1 in 5 American adults think they could beat a chimpanzee in a fight?
Yeah, probably not happening. Like it. I mean, unless the chimp is like really small, like it's a baby. But
no, 1/5 of the country are like borderline retarded. Because
I already knew that.
1/5 of the country takes the QAnon conspiracy theory seriously. 1/5 of the country is functionally illiterate. 1/5 of the country thinks it could beat a chimpanzee in a fight. 1/5 of the country believes in that they've lived in haunted houses and they've like come across ghosts in a haunted house before.
Day 2 now poll at work with like 63 to.
John, do you think you can take on the ghost of a chimpanzee?
Go into the gorilla, but what do the experts?
Yeah, no problem. You just need to exercise it.
Say our next guest has over 2 decades of experience studying and researching gorillas. Thank you so much for indulging with us here, Dr. Tara.
Okay, we got a gorilla.
I know this is a weird conversation.
Expert here.
And I want to say that this is a dumb conversation, and I'm hoping we can talk about way more.
It's fun. It's good palate cleanser, good respite from all the war and genocide.
Pressing matters in a second. But can you just settle this for us real quick? Like, if 100 normal unarmed guys got into a fight with one gorilla, how would it go?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and it's been super fun to see how much it has engaged people on the internet. I talk about gorillas all day long, so I love that other people are talking about them as well. I don't think
now,
there's a definitive answer. I have to say that
100 men on PCP versus gorilla.
100 Florida men.
Wait, what about 100 men versus 1 man on PCP?
That I would be on the side of the humans in this case. Gorillas come to this with, a ton of power, all that upper body strength. You can see them here kind of just smashing people right and left. They've got incredible draw strength. But I think the sheer number of humans that they would be up against and the fact that humans could hopefully coordinate their behavior, tag team, take a little bit of a rest while the gorilla would just be going full steam the whole time would really put the advantage in for the humans.
Yeah, I mean, like the fact that we can all communicate and I guess kind of critically think would give the advantage to the humans.
You see,
yeah,
look how exposed its ass is. So if you take one of its severed limbs, just got to use it as a lance its anus.
Rest. Well, the gorilla would just.
Of course, it's so simple.
Would really put the advantage for the humans.
Yeah,
it's the South Park Crocodile Dundee. Just stick your thumb up his butt.
Stick your thumb right in its ass.
If you contort somebody's arm the right way, you can dislocate it. I wonder, all the muscle and skin. Wonder how hard that is to, tear apart.
In Minecraft.
But the bones, you just gotta, contort it the right way.
You're weird, James.
Give the advantage, and also, if I was in that fight and I was one of those guys and I saw somebody get mauled, I would probably run the other way, which would give the advantage to the gorilla there. But jokes aside, I don't know, we have fun thinking about this, or guys do for some reason.
What do people think of my strategy?
Is when you think about man versus gorilla and what's already gone wrong with gorillas being so endangered and how that's
can they use rocks off the ground? Because if all 100 of these men can use rocks,
no, Shab. It's already established that they're in some sort of vacuum when it comes to tools and stuff.
Well, I've never lived in a vacuum
historically
before.
If these hypothetical men decided to go to therapy,
what gorilla lives in a vacuum, Jane?
Okay, shut the fuck up.
Those are meant for cleaning your house, not keeping gorillas.
Shab's hilarious, isn't he?
You know it, babe.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think the fight that we're talking about here is a little bit misguided because really gorillas
shut the fuck up.
Sorry.
A fight for their survival. So they are considered critically endangered in the wild. So the next level after that is extinction in the wild. So definitely the fight that they're in is for their survival on the planet. And what I'm really hoping is I love seeing how engaged.
Aren't all the great apes critically endangered except for humans?
People are about gorillas.
I believe so.
In our mythology and our movies, people are clearly fascinated by them, which is wonderful. And so taking that fascination and maybe turning it into action for gorillas so that they have a future on the planet, is a great outcome potentially of this conversation.
Dr. Tara Stoinski, thank you so very much for that perspective, and hopefully we can get along with our hairy cousins there.
See, I don't like
the tragic stabbing death of a star athlete at a high school track meet.
She's like, if they're smart enough and coordinated enough, it's like That's not part of the plan, I don't think. They're just thrown in the middle of it. It's not that they had a bunch of time to plan this out and
Chad, they can try to coordinate with each other while
they're not going to do it very good with that
shit.
off the fly.
You can still coordinate to some extent. While the front line's being mauled, you can sit there and try to be like, okay, we're all going to dogpile it or whatever.
I'll dogpile you, Gene.
Is dividing America. 17-year-old track star Austin Metcalf was killed in an altercation in this stadium.
Okay, so this is where you had the one Karen that called the 5-year-old the N-word, and she raised like over $700K. So this is another example where we have to have the stupid race war, and this one kid stabbed another kid in the heart over some petty dispute, and now the family has a fundraiser for him, and they earned like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Dallas, an athlete from a rival high school, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony,
I don't
is charged.
care.
And the thing is, both kids, the kid that was stabbed and the kid that did the stabbing, both of them had friends who were white and black. So there wasn't any sort of like racial sort of components when it came to the confrontation between the two. And I guess you can be racist and have friends of another race. So this is where you can appeal to the possibility that that's the case. But in the end, what happened was it was raining. He ran into a tent of the other team. And the one kid approached him and was like, hey, you can't be here. He's like, well, I'm not leaving. And then he grabbed him by the side of his shirt or the edge of his shirt. And then he took a knife and stabbed him in the heart. And then people are trying to be an apologist, claiming that, oh, it's self-defense. Oh, the kid touched him. It's like, kids get into fights all the time. That's normal. It's not normal for one kid to stab another kid in the heart.
Charged with first-degree murder. Now the
And I like
Frisco,
people
Texas, is calling
that's
for
how their
calm
mind
and calling for
works, is self-defense means that if a person touches you at all, you can just beat them to a bloody pulp.
Murder them. It's okay.
Yeah. And you'll have, like, dumbasses, you'll see all these videos where they're like, yeah, touch me. Because what they think is, like, oh, if you put your hands on them at all, then they can just start bashing your head in and put you in a coma.
Well, someone's freedom
misinformation
ends at the end of their fist or their hand or whatever. So I can spin around open-handed, and I'm free to do that. As soon as I hit someone, that's where, it's stupid, but someone could be charged with assault or whatever.
Well, here, it's just, if somebody's going to claim that it was acceptable for him to stab the other kid simply because the kid grabbed his shirt.
Yeah, no.
What about the Trayvon Martin case? That he used the stand your ground, and I don't agree with what George Zimmerman did, because his defense was, oh, he thought that this 17-year-old was going to kill him with his bare hands if he didn't use lethal force, which I call bullshit. But people were freaking out over that. So it's a lot of the people defending this kid for stabbing the other kid in the heart, would they be arguing that George Zimmerman was in the right? Killing Trayvon Martin, who did assault him. So, I mean, this is pretty much the stand your ground law. They enter your personal bubble and you can pretty much kill them. So this is where it's a good litmus test of somebody being full of shit, and it is just race related to them.
About the case. His call to stop the rumors began after someone posted a fake autopsy online claiming that the victim was high on drugs and that the stabbing was not the primary cause of death. The police chief says none of that is true and posted, "Beware of those taking to social media to deliberately spread misinformation, hate, fear, and division." The victim's father, Jeff Metcalf, is also making an appeal.
I've already heard some rumors and gossip. This was not a race thing, and this is not a political thing. Please do not comment if you do not know what happened. This person made a bad choice and affected both his family and my family forever.
The accused killer, who was captured after a police chase, is claiming self-defense. He was actually hailed a hero in 2021 after saving a 6-year-old child from drowning in a hotel pool. Meanwhile, there are dueling fundraisers. A GoFundMe page for the family of the dead teen has raised $287,000 so far. The defense fund for the accused killer has
As
raised
an aside, I just gotta say, all these dance videos are cringe.
Yeah, it's silly. They like went to their TikTok to get these. Oh, here it is.
You call him Here's the juxtaposition.
Child? Did you call the child an word?
Oh, what a fucking hero.
Okay, why don't you have the boss to say?
And she has a 4-year-old, and then this one kid is like 1.5 or something. I don't know, but do you think she's a good role model for her kids when she's using profanities, just making a bunch of noise, screaming at people, calling other kids the N-word, flipping people off? Do you think her kids are probably going to grow up to be entitled, apathetic fucking pigs like her?
Yeah, I would be calling her a piece of shit if she didn't say a single racial slur or even bring up race at all, because she's screaming at kids at the park.
And then people are making the argument, it's black fatigue. And it's because of things like the last video we saw where they did the fundraiser for the one kid that stabbed the other kid. It's like, I have a feeling that regardless of whether that happened or not, she would still just call the 5-year-old kid the N-word.
All right, that's what you say.
Dude, she looks like the most generic, stereotypical cunt.
Yeah.
Like Karen or something. Here, do you want to pull up the donation thing that she has? You want me to send it to you?
Okay.
It's like 350K.
No, it's way more.
It's almost
it just hit like 750.
Why are we even making internet content and having normal jobs on top of that when we could just go scream slurs at kids in the park?
Yeah.
And then set up a GoFundMe when somebody points out that we're being a piece of shit.
So yeah, you can
pray. I want to pray for her safety.
So yeah, you can see up there it's at $750,552. She's
her goal's $1 million. Jesus Christ.
And look at the you can see the most recent tips. It's slowed down a bit since I last looked at it, but you can see how much money she's making. Just scroll down, you see 9 minutes ago someone tipped $20.
Yeah.
17 minutes ago someone tipped $30. So and let's see, 10 there, 23 minutes ago, 15. She's making more than we do.
Wait. Somebody who, Carlos, is definitely an alpha, says Soy Podcast. So, do you agree with what this woman did, and do you think she's a good mother? And do you think this is a good cause to donate to? And if you're going to claim, people are easily brainwashed, we were just criticizing the opposite scenario of people being an apologist for the one kid who was black who stabbed the other kid in the heart. So I like how these people, all the Trump tards, never really want to pay attention to all of our, rhetoric or commentary. They like to be very selective. It's almost like maybe they're brainwashed.
She needs to change her description.
Read it, Gene. Go back.
Because the first thing...
Naka Omar, who filmed the incident, pressed the blonde woman and asked if digging through her belongings would justify using a racial slur against a child who is autistic. Now, they're saying autistic, so, of course, spectrum, it can be pretty broad, but they don't really specify, was it a nonverbal kid? And a lot of times, autism or no autism, really young kids, they kind of don't have that sort of conception of ownership. They might walk up and play with a toy that's somebody else's toy. It's not necessarily because they're stealing. They just don't have that concept. Like they'll walk up and take a drink, like a soda, and just start drinking it. So the thing is, something like that, it's just she has kids, but yet she doesn't understand this basic concept of like developmental psychology. I mean, I think 5 is a pretty young age where it would be one thing if the kid was 12, which it still isn't acceptable, but it seems like she really doesn't understand how kids think.
She was gonna deny it and walk away. When there was a video and she saw that I was recording, she doubled down and maybe tripled down now.
Was it Hendricks has since asserted she was the victim of an attack, claiming online that the viral video has put her family in jeopardy. So, again, like, I don't think that people should go after her, but I don't really think this money is going to assist much when it comes to, I guess, safety. I think it's just her trying to profit off of this situation. And it seems like it's a bunch of, like, racist, like, Trump-tards that are donating or contributing to most of this fund.
Yeah. I got a damn good show. All right, so this white woman is going viral because she said the dreaded N-word. If you want, that's easy for a white person to go viral. Yeah.
This is those Hodge twins, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I had a bunch of my friends in high school get mad at me for calling these guys retards. And their argument was that I was like a beta, soy, cuck, like all of those buzzwords.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is that they were the ones always complaining about not getting laid and complaining about how women don't want guys like us who are like totally cool. They want fucking they want those fucking they want assholes. And like I pretty much, there wasn't a year of high school where I didn't have a girlfriend.
Or women just don't like nice guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it seemed like they were the ones watching the alpha male YouTube videos all the time, but they were never getting pussy. I feel like those things were connected.
They like all those soy boys. They don't like men that go their own way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and there's a movement on the right where they complain like, no one wants to date conservative men anymore. Like, yeah, there's a reason for that.
Right. So, just to give y'all an idea of what's going on, supposedly this black kid there at the park, the black kid was rummaging through her stuff.
Do you think it's racist to think these two look the same?
So she goes,
That's bad.
You black kid go through your stuff and white. First thing that's going to
I get it.
Inward. So let's check this out.
Did you call him a child? Did you call the child a word? It is my own business. You call him a... Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again? Okay. All right.
She called your bluff, mate. She called your bluff.
So, how many other kids do you think are at this playground? I mean, it could just be her 2 kids and that one 5-year-old, but I mean, if she's in a play, or she is at a place where there's numerous kids present, and she's using the N-word, the F-word, she's just not washing her mouth at all. So,
well,
I don't know.
so here's the thing. I'm sorry. Did you have more?
Yeah. Well, how long do you think it's going to be until her kids are just flipping people off and calling people racial slurs?
Well, so here's my thing. If this was because some people's arguments who do like the people who are kind of racist, but not to the point where they're like, you know how there's levels to it.
Yeah.
I think that if this was a video of the exact reverse happening and it was a disgruntled, black mom, who caught a white child going through her purse and was like, I'm sick of white parents not watching their kids and had a bunch of nasty things to say about white people because of it. not only would people be willing to call that out as racist, but we would also be playing that on the same show, and we would be also calling her racist. So, like,
We're a bunch of soy boys.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the conservatives just have a shitty little victim complex. That's really all I'm saying here.
Well, I mean, they're upset. There's all these immigrants stealing their jobs, stealing their women or whatever. They can't get laid because, like, these
you
people
can't even
from
call
other
a 5-year-old boy the N-word at a park anymore. What the hell happened to this country?
They're wokeifying the country, like making the green M&M, getting rid of her, like, I guess, more risque boots and everything. I mean, God.
Making an M&M non-fuckable.
Yeah. I mean, they're just destroying the country.
She
They're
just said what
making
she
The
said.
Little Mermaid
Well, he
black,
did.
and I mean, God, I really wanted to see the Little Mermaid movie. It's really, really disappointing.
Did ask. Yeah, you asked her to say it, and white woman obliged. Okay.
What you say?
They made, like, Velma Indian and everything, and, I mean, yeah.
Oh, I'm not even fucking shitting on the fact that they made her Indian. The whole fucking that whole series is just trash.
I like how it's just a lot of the content where they're doing a lot of the race swaps and stuff are for young children. And a lot of it is for not just young children, but young girls. So it's like, why do a bunch of these, like, older conservative men care so much about, like, The Little Mermaid being fucking black?
Right.
Somebody dig into that little kid, you call him a nigga? The little child? Are you about to hit him?
Acts
He
like
chases you?
one.
He took my son's stuff.
See-
So that gives you...
Okay, so when we were looking,
Fucking diaper bag. I mean, like, what did he do? Did he just, like, walk up and grab some random object and fidget with it? So what did he even try to, like, steal? What was he even, like rummaging or what did he find when he was rummaging? And was it, like, open and stuff? So it's one thing if, like, okay, like, he walks up and he, like, unzips it and goes in because maybe that shows that there's some kind of premeditation on stealing some object. But if it was just open and he walked up and just grabbed something, then it could just be him being a very young, sort of 5-year-old kid. Like I said, you'll have young kids that might just walk up and play with a toy that's laying around that belongs to some other kid. It's not because they're stealing it. It's because they just are too young and they don't get that concept of, like, ownership yet.
so when we were looking at her like GoFundMe thing, the reason why I said that she needs to reword some of it is because it was the third sentence that I looked at, and so we know that
I gotta pee. Continue talking.
Okay, so we know that she called a 5-year-old the N-word, and then the third sentence was, I called him what he was. But the sentence before that is, he was rummaging around in my bag trying to steal something. So there's context to that, but I just read the third sentence, which I just called him what he was. Like, that sounds kind of bad, dude.
Yeah, most of the people tipping are like racist or they're simps. I don't know. It's crazy. I still have this crazy idea to try to make up some sort of story like that that's fake so I can get all the racists to give me their money. You know what I'm saying?
Someone says the kid wasn't 5 either.
How old was the kid, Corzo? Was he 50? He was 9 or 10? Where did you hear that from? And even if he's 9 or 10, what does that mean, though, if he is 9 or 10? 50, be serious? Well, I obviously was joking, but what does that mean if he's 9 or 10?
I refer back to the point that I made earlier. If this was a black woman being racist to the white kid, we would all know that that's racist too, wouldn't we?
No, it turns out the kid was fucking Gary
The kid
Coleman.
should have known better. The kid, well, no, that's stupid, because even if they were 9 or 10, I'm sorry, how old are you? Yeah, the lady should have known way better. Like,
No.
Parents should definitely be stepping in,
Kids
but
should know
that's
better than adults, obviously.
yeah, obviously.
If an adult hits a kid, it's a serious crime. But if an adult slaps a kid across the face, perfectly okay.
Yeah, and you know what? You need to stop listening to your racist friends when they try to inform you on stuff like this. I'm looking at ABC News. In the video, a man in Rochester, a city roughly 90 miles south of Minneapolis, confronts a woman for calling a 5-year-old boy the N-word. Who am I going to believe more? The Corzo family random fuck in the chat or ABC News? I think I might believe ABC News.
Well, it's not just ABC
Come on,
News,
Chab, it's their culture to
any-
steal.
Yeah, it's any
Bad Bill
coverage.
Hicks.
Who'd you gonna call him?
That's what he's gonna act like.
And even if they were 9 or 10, you see that you're probably somebody. I don't know if you have a family, like you have kids or something, but you sound like you probably shouldn't have kids. If you think a 9 or 10-year-old being called the N-word by an adult, if you think, oh man, yeah, that was justified. Why? Because they're 9 or 10. It's like, no. For one, even if they were 20 or 30 or whatever, calling them the N-word is stupid and unjustified, but it's still a child, 9 or 10 years old. Did you never steal something when you were a kid?
No, it's exactly what Gene said earlier. People are experiencing black fatigue.
Oh God, you're a racist. Shut up.
And it's just, they mentioned the kid's autistic. So that's another thing where I'd like if they went into more detail, because none of the sources I found discuss exactly what level of autism the kid has. So what if he's like a nonverbal kid with autism? I mean, if he has more, like, if he's significantly developmentally delayed, then he might not even have any concept of what he's doing. It might just be him walking up to random objects and just fidgeting with it. And, like, regardless whether the kid has autism or not, a lot of kids that are, like, that young, 3, 4, 5, a lot of times they just don't have that concept of ownership. They'll be at my younger cousins, you'll be at the pool, and they'll be in the kiddie pool, and they're using, like, one of the toy or playing with one of the toys that belongs to another kid, and they just aren't thinking about it. To them, it's just, hey, it's something within proximity that they can toy around with, so they just do it without even thinking.
Also, nobody is making excuses for bad behavior because of somebody being black. By the way, that's a wild thing to say when we're talking about a video of an adult woman calling a child a slur, and that's their response to us not making excuses for her is, wah, they're making excuses for black people. Like, no, you're literally just throwing a fit because we won't make excuses for the racist Karen. If you can experience fatigue towards another race, by the way, like, if black fatigue was a real thing, then imagine the fatigue that everybody else feels towards white people. Like, none of this is real. You're making it up. You're being a bitch. Shut up.
Okay,
not talking to you, Gene. Talking to that person in the chat.
Somebody in the chat said, what the fuck is black fatigue? Look it up. It's just a stupid right-wing, like, sort of dog whistle. But a lot of it is like, oh, there's this other video I saw of these 3 kids in a gang that were black that murdered this white girl. And then everyone in the chat's like, oh God, black fatigue and stuff. This is why we had black fatigue. But it reminded me of this other video that we covered a couple months ago, which it was almost like completely exactly the same except for the race. it was a gang of white kids that murdered a white girl. So it's just, you see, you can find the same kind of crimes, you can conduct it regardless of the race. Plus, when it comes to crime statistics based on racial demographics, the vast majority of people who are victims of black crimes are black. And the vast majority of people who are victims of white crimes are white. So that's one of the things you'll see, is that America is still fairly segregated. And it's typically, like, if you're just some, like, white Karen or your average white person in America, chances are you're not dealing with a lot of crimes from black Americans. Why? Because you live in your little fucking bubble and you're surrounded by other white people. And these crimes that are being conducted by black Americans are happening in a separated part of the country. And you know what? It's like just people watching the news. Every now and then they see a story of some person who happens to be black committing a crime. So let's act like this is something really significant with that community. But what about crimes from, like, other demographics?
And you can be recorded for that. Okay, we'll see about that, what the internet has to say about you.
Now, there's
and yet you hear the worst thing to happen to black people is white people. This goes back to the victimhood complex. You're watching a bunch of shitty right-wing YouTubers who tell you that that's what everybody's saying, and I just got done saying that the racial fatigue is bullshit all around, and I'd rather not go around perpetuating that talk when if anybody's going to be saying that they're fatigued with a race and their bullshit, the race that has, the larger numbers is probably going to catch the most shit in that conversation. So
somebody says,
why would you even want to have that conversation to begin with?
It's about proportions and stuff, and poverty is much more ubiquitous amongst the black population, and it probably has something to do with the history. They definitely did not have an equal foot in the door. White Americans definitely had over a 200-year head start. So, like I said, America's still fairly segregated, and there's a lot of, bleed through when it comes to systemic racism and classism in the United States. But even in poorer, communities where there's higher crime rates, it's something like when it comes to something like murder rate. Even in, some of the areas with the highest crime rates, it's something like it's 1 every 10,000 people where there's a murder. So you're more likely to die of suicide than you are of murder. You're more likely to die of Parkinson's disease than you are of homicide. And the thing is, even in poorer areas, I mean, yeah, you do see higher rates of homicide and stuff, but most people or most Americans that are living in these impoverished black communities don't commit murder. Violent crimes might be more common in those areas, but the majority in those areas are not engaging in violent crime. So it's still a minority of people within that sort of segregated, impoverished area that engage in those kind of crimes. Go ahead, Chad.
Well, I just want to add something. When you look at, it seems that when you look at regular, just violent crime arrests in general, and not look at homicide in particular, it goes right back to white people accounting for more, which doesn't automatically mean that white people are more likely to commit violent crime.
So somebody says, why do Africans who come here have so much success compared to African Americans? Because people who come here from Africa usually come from more affluent and upper middle class parts of Africa. So a lot of times when people come to America from poorer countries, especially when it's across the globe, it's the ones that can actually afford to move. And if they can afford to move in countries where they have much poorer economies, then that means that they definitely come from a more well-educated demographic. So when you look at American or a lot of Black Americans, they grew up in much more impoverished settings, or at least compared to the average American, and they don't have the same opportunity. And in America, we have piss poor social institutions, so like social infrastructure. So when it comes to our schools, you have crap like No Child Left Behind, where like if schools perform poorly on tests, they'll cut the funding to those schools. And then what happens is like when a school's funding is shut down and the school performs very poorly, they'll shut down that school. And then more and more kids are crammed into one fucking school, and it just deprives that entire community of any sort of like quality education. So they're fucked. And then it's the poverty paradox, where if they live in a community where it's just there's a lack of, it's an employment desert, it's a food desert, a bank desert, so forth, then they have to move in order to find a job, or they need a car to get the job. But they need the job to get the car. They need the job to move. So it's almost like if you had more efficient, public social institution, and there's more of a safety net, people would be able to
stronger
get
infrastructure.
Yeah, like people would be able to get themselves out of poverty. If we had more reliable public transportation, it would be easier for them to commute to places where there's more work. But our country fucking sucks, where if you hit rock bottom, there pretty much is no way out.
Kid actually has autism that was digging through the bag, the black kid. Yeah. Now, my kid is autistic. And like, if I'm drinking a soda from a can and I'm just sitting in my kitchen and I put it down and I look away, he'll come up and grab it and just walk away with it and drink it as if it's his. He does this in public too, so when I go out in public, I have to keep an eye on him, because no matter how...
Somebody says, okay, that's true and all, but come on. You would say it too if you could get a $500,000 on a bootleg GoFundMe. I don't know if I would, because $750K seems like a decent amount, but I already make a few $100K a year. So if I said that, I probably would be fired from my fucking job. So I'd prefer to have a more reliable, sustainable income than I don't know.
Give me enough to retire off of, then I'll say whatever slur you want on camera.
How many times I tell him that's not his? Yeah. He still does.
Gene just wants to go on after that.
Because the kid's autistic. Yeah, but I don't know how true that is. Yeah, I know. I don't know how true that is. Yeah, especially when it's coming from, you know what they said about Carmelo Anthony? It was not his knife, it was a cleat sharpener or a self-defense. Black people lie like crazy. Right. Black people have a great imagination when it comes to lying.
Oh my God. So is it wrong to say that they're Uncle Toms?
Yeah. Wait, no, that's not wrong.
Yeah.
If they came up with a phrase,
this is what I mean. And like, their thing, like, this is one of the arguments that I had with my dumbass, like, high school friends that like specifically these two guys, is that they would say racist shit, and then, like, my friends would act like they said something that's just true, bro, and see, like, you white knight and you simp for black people, and it's like, not really, because I think that these two are like completely retarded. So obviously I don't simp for black people, because these two are complete fucking morons, and they're an example of everything that they think is wrong with black people. So,
and plus, when they're saying that, like, we look at them like they're lesser, we make excuses for bad behavior. I don't make excuses for bad behavior, but do you understand the concept of nuance? Just because I think that they haven't had fair, like they haven't had it fair for a long time, and it's negatively affected them, does not mean I think that if somebody commits a crime living in one of those impoverished areas, that there should be no repercussions. But I do think that our prison system needs reform. And I also have the same attitude when it comes to regardless of the race. Like, I've said that it's more of an issue in America with classism, So whether it's a white person living in poverty, a black person, a Hispanic person living in poverty, I have the same sort of attitude when it comes to our country lacks a proper safety net, and it's the poverty paradox where if somebody can't afford the car to get the job, then they can't actually get the they need the car to get the job, and they need the job to get the car. So the same thing applies to anybody who's living in poverty in the United States. So how do I think black people are helpless or whatever when I feel the same way about any American who's living in the same wealth bracket?
A white person can be in a bad spot economically and keep themselves down through poor decision making too. So
South
it's
Africa,
not
for
really
example.
it's really not a racial thing. And when we talk about infrastructure and education, that's also not a racial thing, because having better infrastructure would benefit every race, including white people. So it all comes back to these people who watch too much Tucker Carlson and shit like that. They just have a fucking victim complex. They don't get laid. They're a bunch of little pansies.
Somebody says you sound like whining children. So because we have a podcast where we're discussing politics, us simply discussing politics is being a whining child. You do realize that there's plenty of streamers that you can find, regardless of their political affiliation, where they literally do yell and scream and get outraged when people disagree with them. They ban anybody in the chat that challenges their views. So we're talking in a pretty civil manner. But I guess
feel free to keep embarrassing yourself in the chat.
Yeah, anybody that has opposing views, they're automatically whining and crying. But if somebody has the same opinions that you do, then it's not crying because.
I can't breathe, so you can't really trust the.
Well, apparently there is one person, Dr. Thomas Sowell.
I was gonna say, Corzo. I'm plenty familiar with Sowell, and I have tried to get through black rednecks and white liberals. It's also whiny victimhood trash.
Yeah,
see, there's another black person that I don't just simp for because he's black. I don't make excuses for Thomas Sowell's stupidity because he's black.
Yeah, just because he has doctor at the beginning of his name doesn't mean everything he fucking says is correct. There's doctors
if it's a person that confirms their views, then the doctor title means that they're always right. But then when the majority of pundits that have a PhD in the same field disagree with them, and they're an outlier, the person that supports them, all of those pundits don't matter.
That
critical
stuff
thinking,
doesn't matter.
what's that?
Yeah,
I'm not
Corzo. If you aren't okay, so when we watch this and we defend it, we say, hey, that's a child. They need to be treated like a child. You think for some reason we're saying that's a black person. It's okay what they did because they're black. It doesn't have the fact that the kid's black doesn't matter when it comes you're talking about black people committing more crimes and stuff like this. This isn't black people. This is a 5-year-old little kid. At what age is it? If you...
There's a right way to go about things.
Yeah,
and
if you ran a daycare and one of the other kids took one of the other kids' toys or items that they own, would you respond by picking up the phone and dialing 911? There's a crook in front of me. There's a difference between children and adults, and we need to treat them separately because kids haven't actually developed their brain. It's not fully developed like we are.
Fully.
Is that too hard for you to understand? Is that if it is, then you're the one with the fucking brain of a 5-year-old here. If you really can't,
we already knew that.
Doesn't mean that what the kid did isn't worthy of any sort of correction, but it's the right way to go about addressing misbehavior from a 5-year-old. is putting them in timeout for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
if they're not your kid,
not sending them to prison.
You talk to the parents. Like
exactly.
Screaming at them and calling them an N-word is just inappropriate.
Yeah, I would
it's
be
not
like
the proper approach.
I'd be like, hey, don't mess with my stuff. Where's your mommy or daddy? And they point that way, and I go, okay, come here. Come this way. Hey,
wait. You would handle that without screaming at him and going, fucking white kids, I'm tired of all these fucking Wonder Bread brats.
Yeah, Hispanics. Oh, you Hispanics. Like, whatever race they are, that really doesn't matter, because we're like, at all, in any way, shape, or form, because we're dealing with little kids. People like you are too worried about race, even when it doesn't matter. Even when the only reason this kid's race matters is because he was called the N-word. Not because he was stealing. All kids steal. Even if they don't know it. Like, I that's so dumb. If you can't understand that.
We can't even stay on the subject for more than 2 minutes. We've been discussing this subject with you for more than 2 minutes. And then you're talking about how we're kids whining. And then you're bitching because some of our mods corrected your grammar. And again, most streamers, whether they're on the left or the right, if people come in the chat and disagree with them, they're just going to put them on silent. They're going to ban them. So, I mean, I don't think I'm pandering to myself too much when I say we are definitely much more accepting of those who have opposing views, because we let them we're willing to allow them to disagree with us in the chat and share their views. So you're kind of lucky that you're in our live chat compared to most other streamers' live chats, because you'd probably be banned.
If I see an adult behaving or robbing somebody, a black adult, I mean, I would understand why a white person would use that word, but stuff like grape or robbing them, something heinous. Unalive, by all means, use unalive one of your family members. That word makes a lot of sense, but you gotta be an adult. That's still a child. Well, just the thing. There's a lot of black fatigue going on. I know. Look, we have black fatigue, and we're black. Now imagine being white.
Did you hear that, Gene?
What's that?
You missed it. They said we have black fatigue, like them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I understand. If I had to be either one of these guys and look in the mirror every day and just, like, know what kind of content you make with, like, the brain rot, then I would feel fatigued of that myself. And he just thinks that that's because of his skin color.
Someone in the chat says they love the Hodge twins.
White with black fatigue. Yeah, I know. Black rappers make millions of dollars just saying this word repeatedly, and black people call each other that repeatedly. I don't deny. Yeah. So she's being doxxed and her life is over. Well, they're trying to ruin her life. She started a give me what is it? Give and go.
Her life is over.
Give and go. She's got a goal of $1 million. She's raised
got a bunch of money, but she doesn't have a bunch of people on the internet. She does have a bunch of people on the internet defending her, but some people are calling her what she is, which is a piece of shit, instead of making excuses for her, and that makes her a victim.
I guarantee she has this account to help protect my family and an OnlyFans.
Black fatigue. What's happening with Carmelo Anthony?
I don't know. Go do some research, Crow. Find out for us.
Somebody's talking about is Bill Hicks saying things that are like derogatory towards other religions? It's one person's.
All religions are stupid.
Wait. These two people have jumped on the Jew-hating train this year with Caden S. Owens and a bunch of other content creators. We criticize Israel. So Israel does not equal Jewish or all Judaism. So that would be like claiming that if we criticize India, that we must hate like anybody who's like ethnically Indian. Or if we criticize, I don't know, Britain or America, we must, I guess, be prejudiced towards all white people, or we must hate Christians. I mean, how is criticizing the government of Israel and the IDF, how does that equal us hating anyone who's Jewish.
That money. She doesn't get that amount of money. It's black.
And we denounced what Hamas did to the Israeli. We acknowledge that there's been wrongs on both sides. So we also admit that not everyone in Israel is supporting what the IDF is doing.
Yeah, memes aside, we make sure to condemn Hamas like every time this subject gets brought up at least once, because there are always going to be people who assume, oh, you don't hate.
They said they're not talking about us, they're talking about the twins.
Gotcha. But yeah, like there are people who will come in and say, you criticize the IDF, that means you must hate Jewish people. Oh, you condemned Hamas, that must mean that you're siding with the IDF, and like, you can see both wrongs.
Fatigue is what's going on here. If Carmelo Anthony can raise $500,000 and he unalive a defenseless child, then I understand why at a track meet. Now I understand why she's raising so much money. It's because of that Carmelo Anthony effect and the black fatigue. Yeah.
Oh, and they're talking about the Carmelo Anthony effect. They're talking about the kid that stabbed the other kid, and because we make excuses, that's why we said that what he did was unacceptable.
You're not wrong, Kevin, and we call those people out. Sorry, go on, Gene.
I mean, I don't condone what she did. No, over and over. It's just childish. But yeah, calling a child that's I mean, she said I think she just gave it to him one good time. But then the black guy comes up and says, "Hey, I'm not even mad at her for saying it to the black guy because you asked her to say it." So and she,
Oh God.
But I don't condone her calling a child that. I remember when I was a small child and I would be outside and white adults would call me that. That messed me up.
Okay, so how much do you want to bet if a white person called them the N-word, they would use it as an excuse to punch the person in the face or something?
Or they just get really fucking pissed off about it, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to say like they don't care about it. Yeah, like I don't care about her calling the guy that, but the kid, it's like I don't know. These guys are something special.
What is this meltdown that you're having, Nathan?
Yeah, they accused us of crying like a kid, and they're having a meltdown in the chat.
You pointed out that we had 26 viewers, but like that's considered a really fucking slow night over here. And on top of that, I could not imagine myself having a fucking schizoid meltdown in the chat of a show with less than 100 viewers.
Who is?
Yeah.
There's 4 people here laughing at you. There's 4 people in that shed doing meth with you and laughing at the show. Is that what you're saying?
Well, thanks for the views.
Do you love
thank you.
Thanks for the watch time.
As I picked the ball up, he said, "Hey, don't ever come back in my yard." Yeah, right? He didn't have to say that. Yeah. That came from pure hate. Like, I know white people all understand, but I was like, hey, that hurt my feelings. Yeah. I think I almost started crying and I got scared. I mean, it has a huge effect on an adult. Just imagine the effect it has on a child. Yeah, but they don't understand, Yeah, but I'm telling you, this is the Carmelo Anthony effect. Well, hey, if the audacity of that kid, his family, to raise money and claim self-defense, and then you got all these black people dragging this poor white kid that's been unalived in the mud. Right. I'm telling you, white people is getting tired of this. Yeah, it's horrible.
There's hate.
That's the same group of people that came up with white privilege.
Retarded. Like the 5-year-old probably didn't even have a clue what he was being called. He didn't even think of it like that, and that's not what matters. It's about how disgusting it is what she did, and
And she's also doing it in front of her kids, so she's teaching her children this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's black fatigue going on. Yeah. People are tired of black people's antics. This woman's going to raise $1 million. She's going to raise $1 million. You think she's going to make it? She's going to get there.
This guy thinks he's smarter than a man who devoted his life to race and economics is funny to me. So what about, again, all of the pundits that also have a PhD level education when it comes to economics that have the opposing views that you disagree with? So
But before I dropped out, go ahead.
Yeah, you're pretty dumb when you can't see the irony there. So based on that logic, it's like you found an expert that tells you that you're right. So because he's an expert, it's like if somebody doesn't agree with him, they think they're smarter than him, so therefore they're arrogant. But then what happens if you discount certain experts' opinions?
It's like
tell you that your worldview is wrong.
It's like people that...
Well, also, before I dropped out of college, when I was studying economics, why is it that none of my professors showed up for the lesson and was just like, all right, today we're going to talk about how black people deserve to be poor. And I know that's going to be a soundbite, but whatever. How did I not meet a bunch of racist people when I was studying economics then?
And somebody says all of them have never refuted Thomas Sowell. Do you know what a assertion is? Just because you say 2 + 2 = 5 does not magically mean that 2 + 2 = 5. So do you want to explain how no pundits have ever refuted them? I'm fairly certain that you can find pundits that have argued against like his particular theories or his particular publications. But I'm sure that without even looking over them, you're going to decide that they're bunk because they don't tell you what you want to hear. And I'm sure you're qualified enough to determine which of the experts actually knows what they're talking about.
Well, I think it's been petered out now. 3:59. No. We talking about it.
Okay, next vid.
I've been wanting to do a few book reviews. Maybe one of them will be on a Thomas Sowell piece. I don't know. I'll look into him and decide.
No one's ever challenged him. Maybe you should look that.
No one, except for all the people who have.
Yeah. So you're saying that, hey, you're not going to find any other economists that have written any sort of refutations to what he's saying. So nobody has ever touched his material before. Why don't you guys just do a quick Google search to verify whether what this guy is saying is true?
Yeah, nobody on the niche fucking anime body pillow forums that I go on has ever fucking stepped up to Thomas Sowell, so nobody has in my world.
Criminal history. And then they said, well, he's just another little ghetto boy. That didn't work, Art. He comes...
Oh, yeah, so you're clearly the only one who's read literature here. So you're able to determine whether or not any of us have read anything whatsoever, any sort of political economic publications, because you're making baseless assumptions and acting as if your baseless assumptions are true.
And no one in the entire history of the world has refuted Thomas Sowell. He's the only person that knows anything about this topic. Is that what you're saying?
When I read up on
and hey, and I can make baseless assumptions about you. I guess I'm going to do the generic sort of baseless assumption that you're a fat neckbeard living in your mother's basement. So it could be true, therefore it is true. If you just make baseless assumptions that can't be verified, then and act like it's obviously true, then it obviously is.
That was what I was saying earlier about the Karen video and the people talking about black fatigue. It's just like, if we use the logic of those people, then man, I've got bad news for those people to begin with that want to use that logic.
And to show how much of a dumb fuck Nathan is, Nathan's like, oh wow, he read a book, he's such an expert. So you're saying that about me, but your little buddy that has the same views that you do, that's the argument he's making. So you're pretty slow if you're not able to comprehend that.
From a 2-parent home where they work and they live in an affluent suburban part of Frisco, Texas. So the ghetto narrative that the media likes to paint on black men accused of physical violence did not work with Carmelo. So what do we know about this case? Carmelo Anthony was at a track meet. Some people claim it was a district track meet. Others claim it was a community track meet, but children from the district were there. I don't know for sure. It'll come out in court as to whether this was a school district track meet or whether this was a community track meet that simply included children from the school district. I don't know for sure. Then they say the weapon used in this self-defense act was a knife. Some people saying it was not a knife, but it was a tool that is used to clean cleats. We don't know. We will have to see.
The whole point is he still stabbed him with something that ended up killing him
when the case takes place in trial. However, Art, what we do know is it was raining that day at the track meet. It was raining. Carmelo wanted to escape the rain. And as you know, Art, when it's raining and you want to escape it, you'll run to the closest tent you can find. It don't matter if it's your school's tent. It don't matter if it's my school's tent. It don't matter if it's your team's tent. It don't matter if it's the other team's tent. I don't want to get soaking wet, so I'm going to go sit under a tent. I'm not bothering nobody. I'm minding my business. I'm just trying to keep dry. So then the two Hunter boys see him. Hunter and Austin. And they decide to approach and engage Carmelo. Now, the media is being dishonest about the situation, Art. The media is claiming that this was a one-to-one fisticuff between Hunter, okay, and...
It doesn't matter if, like, multiple people approached him. Like, it's called excessive force. And this is the kind of guy where this is the opposite of the two Uncle Tom twins, where he's just going to go out of his way to be an apologist because, again, it's the same thing, just race. And this is where, what if it was the reverse? What if it was a black kid that grabbed a white kid by their shirt, and then that kid stabbed the black kid in the heart? If the roles were reversed, I have a feeling that he'd be claiming that the black kid is a victim.
Carmelo. I'm going to say between one of the brothers because I keep getting the names mixed up. I believe it was Hunter, and I do want to say rest in peace to him. My condolences to his father, his family. Nobody deserves to lose a child. Black, white, red, yellow, or brown, nobody deserves to lose a child, not at that age, regardless of whose fault it was. I'm sorry they lost their child. Condolences to the family. So R.I.P. Hunter comes and engages Carmelo with his brother Austin. Hunter and Austin tell Carmelo, you're under the wrong tent. Get from under the tent. Carmelo says, I'm just trying to stay dry or get dry. Leave me alone. Hunter, rest in peace, smacks the phone out of Carmelo's hand. He smacks the phone out of his hand, and the other brother, Austin, allegedly, goes to get his book bag. Now, Art, I want to put this in perspective for you, Art. Carmelo Anthony is 160 pounds. Rest in peace, Hunter is 225-pound football player. Hunter is nearly...
Okay, so did he honestly think... So if you use lethal force, it would have to be for like a scenario where you honestly feel that your life is at risk. I don't think anyone who's being honest will say that Carmelo, who committed the murder, honestly felt that his life was at risk. So how violent, how aggressive were those kids being? It sounds like they weren't even like throwing like punches. So I don't think stabbing one of them in the heart was appropriate.
60, 70 pounds heavier than Carmelo by himself. But he was not by himself, Art. Hunter was with his brother Austin. Austin is around Hunter's size as well. So what you have in this situation, Art, is a 160-pound skinny black boy minding his business. And here comes two racist white boys who decide that they...
So how do they know that they're racist? Because there's plenty of evidence that shows that both parties had friends of various races, that both of them had black and white friends. We don't know if, I don't know if it's established what, I guess, the racial demographics of, like, all the kids on the tent were. But, I mean, there very well could have been black students under the tent. But a lot of this just seems like, hey, he was on the opposite team. So this is our team's tent. So there's no reason to just assume that it was a race thing. And even if it was, is that justified to, like, kill them? So this is an example where we'll call out police brutality all the time. Was it justified for them to murder George Zimmerman because he, engaged in some level of theft? Was it okay for George Zimmerman to kill Trayvon Martin because he honestly thought that, or because he claims that he thought that if he did not shoot that kid, before like the cops got there, that 17-year-old kid would have killed him with his bare hands.
I think you said the name wrong for the first. I could have swore you said George Zimmerman.
Going to remove
them.
I think I said Trayvon Martin.
This black boy.
George Zimmerman killed George Zimmerman.
I don't know.
I don't think I said them twice. I'm fairly certain I said Trayvon
could have swore you
Force. So you got to ask yourself something, Art. If I'm a 160-pound black boy, 2 white boys in racist Texas, both of whom are 60 to 70 pounds heavier than me, they come to accost me physically.
So both the kids are racist. Not only that, the whole fucking state is racist. Racist Texas. Everybody there is just racist.
Shabisky, what the Corzo family guy is trying to say is, okay, so one of the kids
should I be scarred to have my own opinion?
Knock my phone out my hand, try to grab my bag, try to throw me out. The media is making you think it's only one. But guess what, Art? I've been text messaged by eyewitnesses.
He's talking to Ark in the chat.
Received text messages from eyewitnesses. And you know what they told me, Art? They said both brothers tried to jump Carmelo. Both brothers tried to jump Carmelo. This was not a one-on-one fight. It was 2-on-1, but Austin doesn't want to tell the truth because if he tells the truth, Art, that helps Carmelo to establish.
Now, every source that I've looked at so far, none of them have described it this way. So what he's saying could be true. And for those of you who don't know, a lot of the sources that I looked at were lawyers going over this and discussing what their thoughts were. And when the lawyers went into detail about what all of the particular facts are when it comes to the issue, none of them have depicted it in this manner. So he could be full of shit.
This guy.
What's that, Chad?
This guy's a doctor. It says Dr. Umar. Was it in the title?
Well, I don't know if he actually is a doctor. That could just be.
According to
doctors can have style, Jane.
According to the Corzo family, we have to accept everything Dr. Black Guy says.
Yeah, but what
about
Dr.
This
Black
is just
Guy?
like a moniker.
God damn it, Crow.
I don't know if he is legitimately a doctor.
His right to stand his ground. In the state of Texas, Art, you have the right to stand your ground. You know what that means? That means you have no duty to flee when you are approached by somebody trying to harm you. In the state of Texas, you do not have to run. In the state of Texas, if somebody is approaching to harm you, you have no duty to run. And if you feel that your life or safety...
Okay, so there you go. That's the stand your ground sort of law. So does he support what George Zimmerman did? I mean, this is where if he's going to defend George Zimmerman, then it kind of, do you think that us thinking that he is kind of just motivated by race here is a leap in logic? Or, is that more of a leap in logic than him assuming that the kids that approached Carmelo in the tent just did it out of, pure racism?
They were in racist Texas.
Is in imminent danger. You have a right to defend yourself, to include using...
It was raining, so it's racist.
Whoa.
Oh, that was fucking terrible. Yeah.
Come on, get it. Get the horn.
Do it.
Yeah, there we go.
So when you hear people say, why didn't he run? First of all, it was raining. So I assume the ground...
Okay. So because it was raining, that justified murdering somebody, as opposed to, I guess, running in the rain, getting wet. So rain is a bigger hazard than, I don't know, dealing, I don't know. This guy clearly is full of shit.
Was wet. These two boys, troublemakers, respectfully, but they were troublemakers. They were athletes, so I'm sure they could run as well. But more than that, Art, Texas's stand your ground law did not require Carmelo to run. He had a right to stand and defend himself. And I'm going to say that if I am Carmelo Anthony's lawyer, I am arguing to the jury. My client...
Oh my God. So how much do you want to bet if somebody asked him about George Zimmerman, or if somebody asked him about any of these cases where a black person assaulted a white dude and then the white dude shot them dead, and stand your your ground states or states with the stand your ground law, he would have some kind of like argument for why they should be charged for murder or why it's still technically murder and not like a stand your ground. Like there's that one guy that was convicted, and I think he should have been convicted when and this was in Florida, he was haranguing this one woman in her car. And he was known for like loitering at the place and haranguing people over stupid shit. And then the woman's boyfriend ran up and pushed him, which, okay, I don't think he should have done that. But then he took out a gun and shot him dead. So, I mean, would he be defending that like old white fuck in that scenario?
It felt that his safety was an imminent threat, that he felt he was about to be harmed by two football-playing brothers, both of whom weighed 60 to 70 pounds more than him, and with a combined weight.
I just want to point out, it was at a track meet. Normally, like, schools in, like, I didn't go to a big school, went to a small school. Normally, like, big schools, don't they, like, search bags and stuff before, like, events and whatnot?
I don't know. That wasn't a thing when I was in school.
A combined weight, these two brothers, Austin and Hunter, of nearly 500 pounds against this one skinny, 160-pound black boy, Carmelo. Under those circumstances, Art, I believe that he had a right to stand his ground. If I'm 160 pounds and two football-playing brothers with a combined weight of more than 400, nearly 500 pounds are coming to jump me, and I'm only 160 pounds, and I warn them, touch me again and see what happens. He's warning them, Art. He's warning them. I don't want no trouble. But if y'all think I'm going to hurt me and do damage...
Look, at that point, it's just they were only grabbing his stuff and grabbing his sleeve, so they didn't even do anything. Like in that previous example I gave, the guy straight up pushed the other dude to the floor. And I have a feeling that he still would argue that it was murder in that case. But here he's claiming that, oh, they grabbed his shirt, they grabbed his bag. So he clearly was scared for his life. And the thing is, in school, kids get into fights all the time. Kids, like, like trying to beat their chest, act all macho and crap, trying to, like, flex their peacock feathers and everything. That isn't anything out of the ordinary. So, again, kids, high school kids being brawly happens all the fucking time. Kids stabbing another kid in the heart usually doesn't happen. So, I'm going to say he was a giant fucking pussy if he felt that it was necessary to use lethal force because he was scared for his life.
To me, I'm going to do whatever I can.
I can't say anything because I literally got arrested and wasn't allowed in public school for a while when I was in 7th grade because I gave a kid a really bad concussion and put him in the hospital. But I didn't kill him.
And according to the law, Art, he was within his right to do so. I don't think he intended to kill the brother. I think he just intended to jab him so he would back off. But when you are afraid, when you are scared, when you are timid, when you are fighting for your life, Art, you will do anything. How many women have shot and killed domestically abusive husbands and didn't do it on purpose? How many women have shot and killed domestically abusive husbands, but they didn't do it on purpose? They did it out of fear.
I also got along with that guy after that.
So he says how many domestic women, I think this is sort of a false comparison. And again, at least, like, when it comes to domestic abuse cases, usually the men are doing things like wringing their wife, like, by the neck, punching them close-fisted in the face, slapping them countless times to the point where there's bruising. This didn't even escalate to that point.
I might die. He could have been beat to death that day, Art. Carmelo Anthony could have been beat to death that day, and instead...
You could say that in any scenario. Where there's... So, based on his logic, like, if you feel intimidated at all, if somebody, like, walks up to you and starts, like, pointing, like, poking you with their finger, you could just say that, oh, you feared for your life, and then it's okay to shoot them dead, stab them dead.
He chose to stand his ground. So what's the problem then, Art? Why are white folks all up in arms over this? Y'all wasn't up in arms when Breonna Taylor got murdered. Y'all wasn't up in arms when Trayvon got murdered. Y'all wasn't up in arms with Freddie Gray or Philando Castile or Tamir Rice or Sandra Bland. Y'all wasn't up in arms with Amir Locke, Sonia Massey.
So it depends on who you talk to. There were plenty of white people that cared when Trayvon Martin died. There were plenty of people that felt that George Zimmerman was out of line.
I was one of them.
Yeah, so this is just two wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of my conservative-leaning, like pro-police, like Republican friends also were leaning in the direction of Trayvon Martin didn't deserve to die when that happened. It was like it was one of those things where honestly, like only the really extreme, like douchey people that I knew were making excuses.
Black people murdered by police and so-called vigilante white people. Y'all didn't say nothing about them. Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines, Art. Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines, bought a rifle, crossed state lines, unalived 2 people, injured me others, and he went home free. No conviction. George Zimmerman pursued Trayvon Martin with a gun, shot him in cold blood. He went home. No conviction. Daniel Penny choked our brother Jordan Neely to death in a New York City subway. Daniel Penny choked Jordan Neely to death in a New York City subway, Art. No conviction. Daniel Penny pursued Jordan Neely. George Zimmerman.
Okay, so.
Oh, he was about to go on with George Zimmerman.
Yeah, George Zimmerman, I think, should have been charged for manslaughter. I think that was one of the big mistakes, was charging him for, I think, second-degree murder. And if he was charged for manslaughter, then it was definitely much more likely that he would have been convicted or found guilty. The case, like with the dude that was choked to death in the subway, I do think the dude that choked him should have spent some time in prison. And I think that it definitely was excessive to choke him to death. And again, 2 wrongs don't make a right. So even if, like, in another state where somebody in a different sort of trial was found guilty, where in a better sort of more proper reality they would have been found guilty, that doesn't mean that in this case this person should get off for murder.
Zimmerman pursued Trayvon Martin. Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines and pursued trouble, and they went home without a charge. Carmelo Anthony was sitting under a tent so he couldn't get wet. He was sitting under a tent so he couldn't get wet, and 2 racist white boys, rest in peace to Hunter, condolences to his family, but these 2 racist white boys thought they had a right to forcibly move this black boy from that space. White people have always felt that they had jurisdiction over the black body. It goes back to the plantation days, Art.
I doubt that.
Yeah, he's generalizing, so I don't think all white boys think that they have, like, control or jurisdiction over a black person's body. I think,
this is what I meant earlier about how we wouldn't really, we're not exactly racist against white people over here because literally all 4 of us are white.
The problem with this case.
Nah, I'm Sudanese or some shit, according to our Japanese viewer.
Was meant for white people to be used against black people. The stand
Trubisky's an albino black man.
Yeah.
Against black people. It was never intended for black people to use the stand your ground law to defend themselves against white people. And guess what, Art? White people don't care whether or not Carmelo is justified or not. They don't care. Even if it is proven that Carmelo acted in self-defense, and it will be. They don't care. The problem with white folks is in this country, black people do not have a right to defend themselves from Caucasians. This is a 400-year-old practice. This is a 400-year-old norm. This is a 400-year-old culture. This is a 400-year-old custom, Art. So he's not in court fighting against the law. The law is on Carmelo's side. The problem is, the basic problem of this case in Frisco, Texas, Art, is a black boy valued his own life enough. A black boy valued his own life enough to take the life of a...
Okay, so in the other cases, even though we don't defend them, it was to a much greater extreme when it came to the confrontation. So in the other cases, at least with the Trayvon Martin case, which I don't think Trayvon Martin deserved to die, but he was guilty of throwing punches at George Zimmerman. Like, this is a scenario where, like, punches weren't even thrown. No one was even really assaulted yet. So it's just, I call bullshit that he feared for his life because they grabbed his sleeve.
Well, apparently they're also trying to, well, in this case, they were also trying to grab their bag.
Yeah, and it's just in schools, kids bully each other all the time physically and will try to intimidate other kids physically. So should, like, based on this logic, kids should be stabbed and killed in schools all the time whenever, like, another kid tries to intimidate them physically. So it's just that this dude clearly is showing an extreme bias.
And in American history, you rarely come across black men, let alone a child, who valued his life enough and had courage enough to defend himself against two racists who were trying to harm him. And let me say this, Art. People are talking about why did he have a knife? He's a black man in Texas. Why wouldn't he have a knife? Are they crazy? If you black in America, Art.
I don't think kids should have knives, and I don't think kids should be at like schools or on the campus of a school with a fucking knife.
Yeah, that was another thing that like I've had a knife since I've always carried a knife since I was like 12. I never brought it to school though.
I had knives when I was a kid, but I definitely didn't need to have them.
And again, it's a fucking track meet. Why would you why would you have a knife at a track meet? You bring a lunch, like a Gatorade and your fucking track shoes to like do the high jump. What do you need a knife
He's doing
for?
the Hitler salute.
In Texas, guess what? It is perfectly legal to carry a knife in Texas as long as the blade doesn't.
Yeah, but I don't think it's legal to have it on school grounds, or at least you get expelled from school if you take a weapon on campus or inside the building.
Exceed 5.5 inches. So if Carmelo Anthony had a knife on him, that doesn't make him a criminal. After all, isn't this Texas? Isn't this the state that prides itself on allowing its citizens to openly carry guns without no license to carry? So if this is a state that prides itself on allowing its citizens to openly carry guns, firearms, without a registered license to carry, how can you be upset with a 17-year-old black boy who carries a knife for self-protection? He had a right to have that knife. He was not breaking the law to have that knife because Texas law allows children even to carry knives as long as the blade doesn't exceed the 5.5. And the harassment and bullying against his family are completely unacceptable.
No, it's
they
when
threaten
he
the family
stuck
life.
the
They threaten to
knife
harm.
into the other kid's chest. That's when it became
Yeah.
illegal. I don't know if he understands that part of it.
And it's like, did he honestly think the other two kids were gonna murder him with their bare hands?
Yeah, it's like he keeps being like, they're racist. They're racist. And it's like, just because they're, like, even if they are racist isn't a weapon. They didn't come after him with a big racist swinging it.
Gun.
You know? Yeah, it's
It's the N-word gun.
He adds
Wait,
that on
somebody
to it.
says we're always whining about racism.
We're talking about things that have to do with racism. News stories that specifically have to do with racism. He's the one talking about racism on the video we're watching.
Yeah.
And
and he's even
pointing. We're a news and politics podcast, so I don't know if you're aware of this, but racial tension in our country is a pretty pervasive issue. So it's like, based on your logic, any sort of political commentators shouldn't be discussing racial issues at all.
Look, he's even pointing a gun at us too. Look.
His father had to leave his job to stay home with his wife and children.
Okay, so they're not referring to us, I guess.
Because white people driving by in cars, threatening their life.
Oh,
they
okay.
are literally under siege.
So
you know what's so hypocritical
you're doing that a bit too much.
White people have always
Sometimes
been. They say wait until the courts have administered justice, and whatever the courts decide is the letter of the law. Don't they always tell us that this is a country of laws, that you don't take the law into your own hands? They told us that with George Floyd. They told us that with Breonna, Freddie Gray, Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Amir Locke.
Kind of like murdering somebody on the spot when you're dealing with something. He probably should have, like, if he really felt like these people wouldn't leave him alone, it was a problem that even made him think, like, maybe I need to grab my knife. You need to grab yourself, like, you need to go call the police first or something. I don't know. Crazy idea.
Well, no, it was raining, so if he ran, he'd be attacked by the rain.
Oh no, he'd get wet if he went outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
it was like a scenario where it's like either run towards the grizzly bear or stay and fight the tiger. So it's just
it's like
they were the two murderous football players, or he could have run into the rain and been struck by lightning. So
Well, they were trying to take his backpack, who was filled with Dr. Samuel's books.
It's like, I'd really like to ask this guy if he thought that it would have been a better decision for him to just grab his stuff and leave the tent, whatever he can, like, and just leave the tent, right? Like, stab someone or leave the tent. Stab,
but then he would
get
be
wet. He would get wet.
Rewarding their bad behavior. He'd be
not
he's
killing
standing
them.
his ground. He's being assertive. He's no longer allowing the other oppressive group to just bully him into submission.
Every time a black person is killed, we're supposed to sit down, hold our emotions, fold our hands art, and wait for the racist, criminal, injustice system to run its course. Well, why aren't they doing the same thing with Carmelo? Why is his family being intimidated? Why are they being threatened? Why did his father have to take off of work? And then they accuse them of tapping into the GoFundMe money. Well, they didn't even tap into the GoFundMe money. They lied and said they went and bought a big house. They already had a house. They lied and said they went out and bought a car. They already had a car. Why y'all lying on this black family? Y'all raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the police killers of black people. Y'all raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions.
Okay, so here he is being racist, talking about people as if they're a collective. So in a lot of these issues, you'll see that there's a notable divide and a large amount of people, when it comes to police brutality, a large amount of white people think police brutality is a serious issue. I think police brutality is a serious issue. I thought that with George Floyd, that the cops deserve to be charged. There's so many cases of police brutality where the cops just get off on, they get a paid vacation. So it's just, here he is being all, he's being black and white when it comes to his rhetoric, and you don't fight racism with more racism.
I want to know this guy's stance on the N-word woman.
Killers of black people. If y'all can raise money for your killers, why can't we raise money for one of our children who had to take a life?
Okay, so why can't we raise money for one of our children? One, it's black people aren't a Borg in the same way white people aren't Borg. This is the problem, that sort of in-group, out-group bias, not separating the race from the person. So, and in a lot of these cases, he's ignoring the fact that usually there's a notable divide when it comes to people's take on these issues, like we saw with the one woman who used the N-word. What are their names? The Uncle Tom twins. They were defending her, and they're black. And then
I came back at just the right time.
When it comes to police brutality, it's just there's plenty of white Americans that will call out the police. There's a lot of white Americans who think that there's a notable problem with corruption amongst police forces.
Call out the corruption without saying that they all deserve to die too. There's nuance to that part too.
In order to defend his own, I stand with Carmelo Anthony. I stand with his family. I hope that God and the ancestors will bring justice to this situation. I hope Black Texas.
If you caught that, he said he had to kill someone. He said it like he was a victim. Why can't we raise money for someone who had to, one of our children who had to kill someone? It's no, he didn't.
Yeah, why can't I find enough people that are stupid and hive-minded enough to give me money for this?
And it's not I do think that there is this sort of, it's not an absolute, but I'd say on a case-by-case basis, things definitely don't work in the favor of the black community in America. But it's not an absolute. There are plenty of cases where, with the George Floyd case, the cops were held accountable. I gave that one example of that one, racist white dude in his 50s who used the stand his ground law to shoot the one guy dead who shoved him. He was held accountable. He faced criminal charges. And he also was found guilty. So this is something where it's not in 100% of cases, people get off for abusing this sort of stand your ground law, or they get off when they engage in excessive force. And even if there still is, and I agree there still is, this sort of injustice on the end, or that the black community faces, that doesn't mean that if somebody is rightfully or properly charged and they do face a sort of just or proportionate penalty to their crime, that doesn't mean that just because they were less likely to be found guilty if they were white, that doesn't mean that it's still wrong to charge them. Two wrongs don't make a right.
shows up and shows out at the Carmelo Anthony trial, we cannot let that family be alone. Every black person in Texas, every black person in America even, needs to be at that Frisco County courthouse when this case is tried. We need to let America know you don't have a right to put your hands on
I thought we always defended black people just for being black, no matter what they do.
Well, now we're racist for having the views on the opposite end. It's like when we're critical of Biden, yet everyone assuming that we were like conservatives and stuff. And now that Trump's president, when we criticize Trump, we must be like pro-Biden.
Libtards.
You know what's the most ironic thing about this whole piece of art? The most ironic thing about the Carmelo Anthony case. What's that? Because Carmelo sacrificed and stood up for himself. The most ironic outcome.
That's also true, Brian. You're not wrong.
Controversy is because that young man was courageous enough to defend his own life. And unfortunately, it resulted in the loss of life for his assailant, one of his assailants. Now, when white kids bully black kids, they're going to have to think twice now, Art. Carmelo Anthony should be honored. Not for taking nobody's life. We don't honor death. We never do that. But for having the courage to stand up to two white bullies who are much bigger.
Is there a big problem with white kids bullying black kids?
And I'm pretty sure it goes both ways. You can find plenty. Like, there's that one girl who committed suicide because 3 black kids, and 2 of them were males, were beating the shit out of her. She was on the floor and they were kicking her face in.
Yeah, there's always people in group, out group.
Because he had the courage to stand up.
Always being racist.
Now,
especially kids.
Chad, your camera is like frozen.
Your camera's frozen
on our end.
Every black kid in America
kind of lagging out a bit.
Those white kids are now going to think.
Yeah, it froze.
Chad's camera is having a seizure.
Twice about what they're doing. Because if you keep
power's going out again,
somebody into a corner with fear and concern for their safety,
did you miss me?
It might not work out for you. And I can tell you, Art, as a certified school
psychologist
who works in schools, when white children bully black children, nothing is done about it. Let me say that again. I'm talking California to Pennsylvania. I'm talking Texas to Connecticut.
So I think bullying in schools, that's a serious issue in general, is that they usually don't give a fuck about bullying. That seems to be pretty common, is that if kids are dealing with bullying, the system just doesn't give a fuck, whether, regardless of the racial dynamics.
So when I was a kid, I saw. I saw them participating in it.
Yeah, if white kids are bullying white kids, if one race of kids is bullying another race of kids, usually the schools just don't care. So, but if a kid is rude to a teacher, then it's a crime.
And everywhere in between. When white kids bully black kids.
And we gave that example where it's like there were 3 kids beating the shit out of a white girl who was like half their size. And apparently they were bullying her for months. And the school did nothing about it until she ended up killing herself. So he's acting like, and this is an example where it's like, I don't know, maybe if you looked into it, you would find that there's a slight sort of, I guess, disproportion when it comes to addressing bullying, if it's white on black sort of bullying. But overall, I'd say that the school system really doesn't give a fuck if kids bully each other.
I would think that
nothing is done about it. There is a white.
I would think that there would be a bigger problem with like black on black bullying, because like most.
I already said that. Like a lot. Yeah, and it's the same thing when it comes to a lot of crimes. Most of it is you're much more likely to be a victim of a crime of somebody who is of the same ethnicity. And in the vast majority of cases, when somebody is a victim of a crime, the person that subjected them to the crime is of the same race. And the country's still fairly segregated, so it's just usually if you're black, you're probably going to be in a school where the majority of the kids are black. If you're white, you're probably going to be in a school where the majority of kids are white.
Yeah.
Privilege in America's public schools. There's a white privilege in America's charter schools. There's a white privilege in America's independent.
It just, when it comes to something like police brutality, I agree. That's a scenario where Black and Hispanic communities definitely are much more likely to be the victim of that kind of crime or cruelty. But when it comes to bullying, it seems like every story you see in the news of kids being bullied, it's always the same thing. That it went on for months and months and months. The parents did everything they could. The school did nothing about it. The kid ended up killing himself.
In Minecraft.
So it's just, I think this narrative here is a false narrative.
Independent schools. For all we know, and I'm not going to put this on them, but for all we know, Hunter and Austin could have a history of bullying black kids, and it finally caught up to them. And I don't say that to be insistent, but white kids, just like white people,
it finally caught up to them.
Apparently, both kids had a history of bullying. So when I've looked into it, apparently both kids have had a history of engaging in like violent disputes or engaging in like physical confrontations. Both kids had friends that were white and black, and both kids had a history of like being brawly and bullying other kids. So I don't think this is a scenario where one kid like was and he's going out of his way to vilify the one kid who was murdered, while going out of his way to, oh God, he was scared. He was such he could have. The only other option was to run into the rain and be attacked by the rain.
Yeah. Well, like the right, I think it was Fox News. Like there was like one correspondent on Fox News trying to be like, oh well, the blacks are attacking the white now, and then, the dad
Somebody
was like,
Somebody clip that.
Go for it. But like the dad was like, stop trying to fucking make it like racial. It was just like an accident or like it was unfortunate that it happened, but it wasn't racial.
Yeah, it's weird that they were like opposing team, like that was the team they were going against. Like they had just that good reason to not like each other, not be cool with each other. Like they were
apparently, when they like talked to all the other kids there, they said that was like pretty much the source of the confrontation. Like, this isn't your team's tent, you need to get out of here.
Yeah.
So it was our sports team, your sports team scenario, and like again, kids get into fucking fights all the time, regardless of race, and usually it doesn't end with one of them being murdered. So
usually,
if he's making the argument that he should be acquitted for stabbing the other kid in the chest because the kids were intimidating him physically, then, and I know school shootings happen a bit too often, but it seems like every day there should be like hundreds of stories of kids stabbing other kids in school.
If the knife doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Of course. I knew it was coming.
Okay. I think after this we'll end the stream. I'm starting to get tired.
Wow.
But Shab and I are planning on doing streams more often instead of just committing to one day. Whenever I feel up to it, I'll message Shab and we'll stream.
Fears of further escalation between India and Pakistan after last week's deadly attack on Indian tourists in disputed Kashmir. India says those attackers had Pakistani support. It's a claim that Pakistan denies, but the situation has triggered military activity on both sides of the border, and the people of Kashmir continue to live under constant pressure, facing not just the possibility of physical...
Okay, so here, somebody left a comment in my chat the other day, like, Pakistan supports terrorism, so go India. So more black and white in-group, out-group bullshit. So, okay, there's really no way to determine 100% whether or not Pakistan was supporting this particular terrorist group. And based on what I found looking into it is they have supported certain militias in the past. And a lot of them have gone on to engage in acts of terrorism. But these militias they supported in the past, that was like 20, 30 years ago. And this is kind of a similar example of like the U.S. and our allies, or Russia and China, supporting militias in different parts of the globe, and then they turn into the Taliban. So it seems like it's a situation like that. Plus, even if Pakistan is at fault there, 20-something people died. That's still bad, but I don't think that's to the point where you need to just engage in all-out warfare. And if we're going to talk about how what they did, like they murdered like 20 people, oh, that's terrible. Prime Minister Modi has, like, when it comes to the Kashmir region, like, engaged in so many fucking human rights violations. He supported bulldozer justice, where he's gone and tear down entire neighborhoods. There's that one infamous scenario where they tear down a mosque and built a, like, Hindu temple over it. Plus, it's like his political party derived from, like, a Hindu supremacist group. So, like, like, Modi is literally part of a terrorist group. The same sort of Hinduist supremacist group that was responsible for murdering Gandhi. And his party, it's like the RJP or forget what it is, but they kind of provoked a riot that resulted in hundreds of Islamic citizens dying in, like, I believe it was Kashmir. So like, this scenario where there's a lot of fucking hypocrisy and this logic of, hey, they need to conduct airstrikes and they need to engage in all-out war because of it. It just seems like Modi is looking for an excuse to go to war.
Physical danger, but also deep emotional and psychological stress.
Pakistan's military is on high alert, conducting intense drills across land, air and sea. Military Chief General Asim...
Oh, and it's the BJP. That's his political party, and they derived from the RSS. And the RSS, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that that was a terrorist group.
Has warned of a swift and resolute response amid concerns of a possible strike from India. Delhi blames Pakistan for last week's deadly attack in the town of Pahalgam in Indian-administered Kashmir. Pakistan flatly denies any involvement. Islamabad is also emphasizing restraint, urging the international community to step in and help prevent the crisis from escalating further.
Pakistan does not seek escalation. This has been made clear by the political leadership of Pakistan and at all levels. At the same
time, they've had a few military conflicts with Pakistan in the past. I went over this like last week. There was one where the United States supported Pakistan and then China supported India, which is ironic because now India and China hate each other. But that was in the like the 60s, I think. And then the big one was right after like the British Mandate, where they divided India and Pakistan was for like carved out for the Muslim population, and then India was carved out for the Hindu like majority. And it was one of the largest mass migrations ever in human history. And of course, it resulted in a lot of violence when it came to people having to give up their land very quickly, weren't given a lot of time to relocate. And it was something like only a couple years after World War II, they had like the first like Kashmir War. Now, both countries are very heavily populated. Of course, India, everyone knows, like India has like 1.4 billion people living in it. It's currently the most heavily populated country on the planet. But Pakistan has like a couple 100 million people living in it. So that's also one of the most heavily populated countries on the planet. And like, shockingly enough, the last couple times they've gone to war, they only accumulated like a couple thousand casualties, which is pretty like small as far as wars go. So they were more like skirmishes. And
India and Pakistan had a war for East Pakistan, and India won, leading to what Bangladesh, the founding of Bangladesh.
Yeah, and I know that what is it, like the wars did last for, especially the first one, they lasted for like a couple years. So within the span of a couple of years, there's only like a couple thousand deaths. And to put things in comparison, it's just in Ukraine, hundreds of thousands of people have died so far. In Palestine, like there's been over 100,000 deaths. So in Tigray, the Tigrayan war in Ethiopia, it was in like the 6 digits. So hopefully things go the way they did in the last couple of military conflicts where the kill count doesn't get very high, but things could go differently. And one thing that's very common in modern warfare is if one side doesn't steamroll the other side very quickly, it turns into a stalemate, like what we've seen in Ukraine, or like what you've seen in Syria, where the Battle of Aleppo went on for like 4 years. So you look at just how heavily populated these two countries are, and imagine both of them going to war. Imagine it turning into a stalemate. And imagine them being at war with each other for years where the victories are measured in inches. And both countries, unlike in other conflicts we mentioned, like India, of course, is up there with like one of the top 5 strongest militaries. And Pakistan also has a decent military. So things could get pretty fucking bloody.
In time, we are fully prepared to defend our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Should India resort to aggression, Pakistan will exercise its inherent and legitimate right to self-defense as enshrined in the UN Charter.
The Indian Air Force has also been carrying out training exercises. India is under intense domestic...
So, I am Bobby. I don't agree that Trump started this war, but I do agree that Trump has played a part in provoking this war. I think Prime Minister Modi is mostly to blame here. But I do think Trump is an asshole and a dumbass, and he's definitely been shilling for Modi and supporting the engagement.
Pressure to respond forcefully to the Kashmir attack. Delhi has long blamed Pakistan of supporting militant groups that target India. Allegations that Pakistan denies. Delhi says its security forces will track down everyone involved in the attack, promising that no perpetrator would go unpunished.
So, again, like Pakistan and India have engaged in multiple military disputes, and the United States has even supported Pakistan. They've given weapons and money to Pakistan, and in both wars, both sides funded and supported militias. So this militia, apparently they supported it decades ago when these military disputes were taking place. So this is a scenario where it's like they kind of just, like in all these other fucking scenarios like we're seeing in Syria or Iraq, the militia has pretty much become a variation of the Taliban and are now wreaking havoc. So this scenario where I think all sides are kind of guilty of this particular group surfacing.
Well, wasn't
all of
it...
them were supporting fucking militias and engaging in this kind of like covert sort of fucking warfare. But what's that, Crow?
Well, didn't Britain govern India for like until 1947, and then they kind of like dipped out, and they're like, "Oh no, the Hindus."
It was at the end of World War II. They gave them their sovereignty, and I already mentioned that there was that the British partition, where it was one of the largest mass migrations. They divided it between East India and India, but then it's just East India. They decide to brand themselves as Pakistan.
Yeah, but they were like, okay, the Kashmir area, you guys have to, like flip a coin, and whoever wins gets it. And then they're like, nah, bro. And England's just like, yeah, I'm
I don't know if that's how it went, but I know that both of them have laid claim to the area, and they've been fighting over that chunk of land for quite a while. But the thing is, the majority of people living in Kashmir are Islamic, so it's just why, or they're Muslim, so it makes more sense that it should just be part of Pakistan, because it seems like Modi isn't a big fan of the Islamic population in India, and he refers to them as infiltrators. So it's just kind of like, you know what, if you hate them so much, why not just cede the land over to Pakistan, which is a Muslim majority country? Seems like there'd be far less conflict, but no, they don't care. They want to, like, they are engaging in some kind of, like, I'd say it hasn't gotten to the point of genocide, but like we've shown before, they clearly don't look at them like citizens, and they don't mind just bulldozing their neighborhoods and so forth. So there's some notable like bigotry there.
If someone thinks that carrying out a cowardly attack is their big victory, then understand that this is Narendra Modi's government. No one will be spared. It is.
And when people are like, oh, India has a much more powerful military, and like I said, there's that risk of things resulting in a stalemate, and usually when that happens, the casualty counts start to stack up. The gap in military strength when it came to Ukraine and Russia is much wider than the gap in military strength between Pakistan and India. And unlike what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, where like only one of those combatants are a nuclear power, here both India and Pakistan have nukes.
It is our resolve to uproot militancy from every inch of this country, and we will accomplish it.
The United Nations, the US, and several other countries are urgently calling for
Nick says you're playing Warcraft, Shad.
He asked
between the two nuclear-armed neighbors.
I'm not playing Warcraft.
The UN has warned that any miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences for the entire region. Both Pakistan and India claim all of Kashmir. It's been at the center of almost every major conflict between them and has led to the loss of thousands of lives.
And beyond those numbers lies another kind of damage, the long-term emotional and psychological toll of the people who were caught in the middle. For more on this subject, let's bring in Dr. Saiba Varma.
Pakistani officials say at least one child is dead and 2 people are injured after India struck parts of Pakistan and Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. India's government says the strikes targeted terrorist infrastructure.
What is it? I think it's Pradesh and Asaki. Those are the 2 regions that are claimed by China and India. So currently India is having like some sort of, I guess, territory dispute with both countries. So ironically, China that supported India and like the last major conflict, now China and India are fighting each other over the same thing that India and Pakistan are fighting each other over. So that's made Pakistan and China big allies.
In Pakistan. It comes after a deadly attack on tourists in the Indian-controlled portion of Kashmir last month. When asked about the attack at the White House Tuesday, President Trump called it, quote, a shame and expressed hope that India and Pakistan can resolve the conflict quickly. Let's go to CBS News producer Arshad Zargar from New Delhi. Arshad, what's the latest and how do we get here?
Lindsay, the Indian Defense...
I know how Trump can solve this. He should buy Kashmir and make it the 51st state.
No. Just tariffs. More tariffs. They'll fix it.
Has confirmed that they have carried out strikes on...
Do you think Trump gets confused with tariffs and terrorists?
Maybe.
Which have
Possibly.
in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir and Pakistan...
Like how that was...
subject the other countries to terrorists.
See that was kind of a horn moment, but also like it's very like true what you're saying.
I was waiting for the horn to go off. I was surprised.
Well, you see, but it's also very possible that that Trump makes that mistake.
Well, Ark in the chat, they don't need to engage in nukes to reduce the world's or to help the world's carrying capacity because declining birth rates are already achieving that goal.
Just the sites in Pakistan, occupied Pakistan-controlled Kashmir have been targeted, but in the Pakistan mainland as well. This is not what had happened in 2019 when India carried out airstrikes on in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. And what India is saying is that they're insisting that they have not targeted any Pakistani military facilities. And to quote from their statement, it says that India has demonstrated considerable restraint in selection of targets and method of execution. What we also know is that India's national security advisor has spoken with U.S. national security advisor and Secretary of State to sort of take them into confidence, to let them know that they have taken this action. In response, Pakistan, we are not aware of any...
That guy looks pretty cool with glasses. He looks kind of like the villain from Sweet Tooth.
Pakistani air action as of now, but the Indian Army says that there have been cross-border fighting in at least 5 sectors along the line of control, which is a de facto border between India and Pakistan. Let me point out that...
Next vid.
This is one of those places that...
And I know they've deployed like an aircraft carrier in like the Arabian Sea, India, so things seem to be really getting they seem to be having a lot of fun so far.
Targeted by the Indian attacks late night. And this building exactly is the place in Muridke which was targeted. This is a building complex. There was a mosque behind this building, we have been told. As you can see, there were speakers. You can see the loudspeakers on that pole, and that pole is right on the roof of the mosque that was targeted. We are not being given access to this area because it has been cordoned off by the security here. There's a large number.
And like people accusing us of being one-sided when it came to the racial issues. It's an example where Bill Hicks was saying that I was being a shield for India. And now we're being heavily critical of the Indian government.
Number of people, the locals, who have come here to see what has happened, and the police are trying to clear this area, as you can see now. But the people are still coming in. They want to see what actually happened here.
A sudden missile appeared and there was a blast. I immediately got out of the house. I had only reached the mosque near my house when there were 3 consecutive blasts. I heard all 3 of them and they were really loud.
It was a main mosque that got targeted. The sky lit up and it felt like it turned red.
This used to be a very crowded place. Wait, so they conducted an airstrike and what they targeted was a mosque? The children enrolled in the... You think there's some symbolism behind that attack there? Madrasa used to live here for 3 years.
Nah, don't worry about it.
And came from... Dude, they just need to send in excavators and, like, bulldozers and just bulldoze neighborhoods in Pakistan. I mean, it seems like they got far more, like, experience there with those kind of operations. They had gotten the madrasa evacuated, but there were 3-4 kids, and the imam... They'll send in the first, like, killdozer battalion. The mosque living in the building.
This city is very close to Lahore. It's around 30 to 40 kilometers from Lahore. This is a very densely populated area. As you can see, there are houses of this kind, single story. Most of them are single story houses. There's some double story houses in this area as well.
That's Tony
very
Danza.
Populated area. And in between this area was this building which was targeted. As of now, what we know is that one person died here.
Exactly. That's womp
The rescue
womp.
workers are still working here. We're not being given access to the area as of now. So we cannot actually tell that what was this building and how much of it is damaged and what's the nature of the damage from here. But as you can see from here, the building is almost completely destroyed. The roof is totally collapsed, and the rescue workers are trying to remove the debris from there.
India has fired missiles into Pakistan in a deadly escalation between the nuclear-armed neighbors. The Pakistani military says at least 26 civilians have been killed in the strikes. India says it struck infrastructure.
Okay, so I believe in the terrorist attack that provoked this, there was 26 deaths. So there you go. They balanced the tides of the universe, so can they withdraw now?
All is well. By militants linked to last month's attack against tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir. Pakistan's military says it will, quote, respond to this aggression at a time, place, and means of our own choice.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they need to go the Israel route where they need to kill like 100 times the amount of people. So I guess they need to kill like 26,000 people to kind of balance things out.
They described the strikes as limited.
No, they
or 2,600 people.
They sent missile strikes, and apparently India's like, we don't expect Pakistan to strike back because it was a retaliatory one. We're even now, basically. Is what I heard.
Our intelligence monitoring of Pakistan-based terrorist modules indicated that further attacks against India were impending. There was thus a compulsion both to deter and to preempt. Earlier this morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt, as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India. Pakistan.
So were all the 26 people they killed, were they in that mosque that they bombed?
Armed forces
don't worry about it.
Shot even more than 10 of their aircraft. But we exercised restraint. And at no time, any of their aircraft was allowed to enter into Pakistan's airspace. And also at no time, none of Pakistan aircraft went into Indian airspace.
No, I just
Think he's telling the truth?
He's lying.
heard Pakistan's military spokesman there saying that they shot down Indian jets. Well, I asked Shalu Yadav, our senior correspondent in Delhi, if there's any confirmation of that from India.
Well, Terry, we've been here before.
Nuh-uh.
Whenever there's a serious confrontation between the two nations, both sides make claims of inflicting maximum damage on the other side. And there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's been going around, especially in the first few hours of this strike by India. So we have to be very, very cautious. Now, as far
Yeah, we got a bigger kill count.
As the claims of shooting down 5 Indian jets is concerned, we cannot verify it, but we have heard from sources and eyewitnesses in at least 3 parts of northern India where some unidentified debris of aircrafts have been found. Now, as far as Indian government is concerned, it's neither denied nor confirmed these reports. So it seems that there's a lot of fog around this operation, and we'll keep our viewers updated as and when we have more.
What more has the Indian government, Shalu, been saying about the attacks and...
Next bit.
India has launched military strikes against Pakistan, intensifying a confrontation between the nuclear-armed neighbours. India said it acted in retaliation for a deadly militant attack on tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir last month.
Okay, so America, we're the only country so far that have attacked another nation with nukes. When's the next nuclear sort of barrage going to take place? Do you think Putin's actually going to follow through with using some nukes in Ukraine? Do you think Israel will use some nukes?
No on Russia, no on Israel. Pakistan, maybe.
Pakistan and India, maybe. I don't know.
For both sides, it's very emotional because of the long history between the two countries. They react way more immediately. That could escalate really quickly.
India said it carried out strikes on 9 sites in Pakistan.
What Bill Hicks said.
Camps terrorists had used to stage attacks against India. Pakistan has denied involvement in April's attack, which left 20 mostly Indian.
Somebody said, "Hi, monkeys." Julian, do we look like monkeys?
I do.
Well,
dead.
That's
yeah.
racist. Wait, we're actually white, so we're the only race that you can actually call a monkey.
Evidence over the years, of course.
One of us got called black earlier, or dark earlier.
Attacks in India, but what a lot of analysts and experts will point out is a lot of these groups are no longer really under Pakistan direct control.
No,
They've
it was actually dirt.
They have their own plans. So even if it originated in Pakistan, it might not be actually state directed.
India's attack came despite a diplomatic push to lessen tensions that have reached their highest point in years.
They've been fighting for a long time. They've been fighting for many, many decades.
Damn, why is Sterling calling us monkeys? Why are they verbally abusing us? We gotta cry.
And centuries, actually, if you really think about it. No, I just hope it ends very quickly.
So the thinking was maybe India would make the calculation.
Wait, he said centuries? They, Pakistan's only existed as a country for, probably less than a century at this point, because... And plus,
he doesn't fucking know he's retarded.
Prior to World War II, the Muslim and Hindu demographics were much more dispersed. So this scenario of them both being more evenly, I guess, segregated into 2 different distinct regions, that's pretty new.
You sure it
So this
didn't
kinda
say
showed-
decades?
No, he said centuries if you really think about it.
To do some retaliatory action, but maybe not in an aggressive one. But as we found out today, they decided to actually not only launch airstrikes in Pakistan, but go an extra step beyond what they've done during previous tussles with Pakistan, which is some of the strikes have landed deeper into Pakistan than they have.
Pakistan's army said 26 people.
They have been fighting since the beginning of time.
Also claimed 5 Indian aircraft.
Imagine if instead of sending bombs to each other, we just sent nice things to each other.
Animal shit and glitter bombs.
India's foreign
No,
ministry didn't
nice
respond to a
stuff.
request for comment.
It'd be like giving going to your neighbor and going to your neighbor and be like, "Hey, look, I made some cookies. You want some?" Oh, thank you, neighbor.
And it's a bag of dog shit you set on fire.
No.
We're wasting all
They
this
need to,
money
like,
on
with the
bombs and
jets,
being mean when we should waste our
They
money
need
on
to just
being
fly
nice.
over and they need to parachute in boxes of cookies.
Yeah, and nice stuff.
Dude,
Like
I
here's some
wonder
free fuel or whatever.
What would happen
Here's
if a
some
country
oil.
did that? They started flying over and just sending packages of
It'd be
food and cakes and stuff.
Thin mints.
Yeah. It would
Well, in North Korea, they were sending the balloons and stuff of movies and so forth. I guess non-North Korean media. So, and then North Korea retaliated by parachuting feces and stuff, excrement balloons into South Korea. So what if they just India or Pakistan, one of the sides just parachuted in baked goods and loot crates and stuff, gift cards? I wonder how all the other side
gift
would
cards to shops that they can't go to.
Nice
gift
things.
shop, gift cards.
Oh,
to
to
Amazon or
America.
just-
Gotcha.
Kashmir remains one of the most militarized regions in the
Well,
world.
North Korea had to round up the only people that could eat enough in order to poop, in order to.
Okay, bad crow.
What?
Pakistan claimed all the territory, but only control.
There's not a lot of food.
The root of the conflict goes back decades. The two countries were both under British rule during colonial times, and then they were split
Like
into two countries in
India,
1947
we could
during
send them cows. They'd probably like that.
Okay, you guys
Instead
are
of
starting
cars?
to say shit where people pop in.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
partition. So it became Muslim majority Pakistan,
nice,
Hindu majority India, but they have been fighting over some territories that were essentially split in half. The main contested territory is Kashmir. The latest tension.
Wait, so do you think the Kashmir area will go to either Pakistan or India, or will it become its own, like, little sovereign country?
I think that if Modi, and it seems like this is an example where Putin decided to go in and try to annex like provinces in Ukraine. They annexed Kashmir, and they're trying to like test the limits of how much the world will actually tolerate it. So maybe like Modi is taking hints, and it's like, you know what? I think I'll go in and try to take Kashmir. And I don't know. I think things will probably result in a stalemate.
Okay, well then also, so the Pakistan and India are taking cues from Russia and Ukraine. Do you think China is going to move on Taiwan anytime soon?
Oh God! So, Jesus Christ, yeah. So then North Korea is going to take the opportunity to go to South Korea, and then Israel is going to take the opportunity to annex Gaza. Every nation's going to be like, hey, if it's okay for them to take all the eastern, Ukrainian provinces, why can't we take Gaza? If it's okay for them to take Gaza, why can't we take Kashmir? If it's okay for them to take Kashmir, why can't we take Taiwan? If it's okay for them to take Taiwan, why can't we take Canada and Greenland and Mexico?
Well, yeah, we're not viewed as
When's World War III going to happen, everybody?
January 29th, 2029. Fuck it.
The right and will respond to this.
Dude, and the irony is, World War III isn't even going to be all the Western nations, like the NATO states and the United States, versus the Russian, Chinese alliance that everyone has predicted. It's going to be the United States, Russia, China, and India, where it's like, you know what? Let's just allow each other to just go in and take over the neighboring nations.
Take over all the shit that we're all looking at together.
And then it's going to be the rest of the world that's fighting against us all.
Aggression.
Plot twist.
Pakistan is definitely going to be forced to retaliate, given that there are
Greenland fucking plot twist. Greenland
by India
agrees to become part of the United States
against Pakistan.
Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Lewis Vaughan.
One response to that.
Pakistan has accused India of igniting an inferno in the region by killing at least 26 people in a series of missile strikes and gunfire. Several sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir were hit, including this mosque. The National Security Council says India's actions caused grave danger to commercial airlines, endangering thousands of lives, and that Pakistan's armed forces have been authorized to undertake corresponding action. Well, India said it hit 9...
Causing danger to airlines. Look at them crying. None of their airplanes crashed ever since Trump's taken office. One of our commercial airline planes is crashing every fucking day.
sites targeting what it described as terrorist infrastructure. It said no military facilities have been attacked.
Without any terrorists.
Okay, so maybe there were terrorists in there or whatever. This is kind of so far there's only been one bombing, but if this really does start to go south and everything, and things really do heat up, how much do you want to bet it's going to be the Israel defense of, there were two militants there. Blow up a building, and it's because there were terrorists in there.
By Pakistan shelling on the Indian side of the
That'll be a justification for nukes at some point. Just watch.
Between the nuclear-armed neighbours have escalated since last month's attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, in which 26 civilians were killed. India accuses Pakistan of backing cross-border terrorism, a charge Islamabad strongly denies. Well, in Muzaffarabad, the main city in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, troops cordoned off streets around that mosque that Islamabad said was hit by an Indian missile. BBC Urdu's Farhat Javad sent this.
Just few meters from here is the Bilal Mosque, which was one of the targets of Indian strikes last night. This whole area has been cordoned off. There's a heavy presence of the troops of Pakistan Army and other security forces here who are not allowing anyone to go past this point. The building of the mosque has been completely damaged. We can see debris and large...
So, you know what? I guess we're kind of desensitized because you look at Gaza, it's like there's no buildings left. It's just a parking lot, one big debris field. Here, it's like they're conducting some airstrike. Like, see, they weren't even able to turn that one building into a pile of rubble.
Large fragments of metal rooftops scattered everywhere. You can see one metal piece here as well. And these are the scenes that we have seen almost everywhere. Not only the building of this mosque was damaged, but some of the houses which were very close to the mosque, they are also partially damaged. Most of the residents, they had left last night. Some of them had managed to come back today to assess the damages to their properties and also lock their doors.
So, like I said before, the previous conflicts between the two countries, where both of them, I believe, spanned multiple years, only a couple thousand people died overall. So it seems like all these other military conflicts we're seeing, it's one town after the next that's being burnt, like lit on fire. It's like just yet again another building's bombed and 90 people dead. India and Pakistan seem to be pretty tame when it comes to them fighting each other.
Spoken to some of them.
It's like they conduct some airstrikes. It's like, oh yeah, this building is damaged, not even completely demolished, and a couple of the other buildings see a little bit of damage.
Well, they've been at it for years. Like, oh, you killed 27 of us. We killed 32 of you. Are we good now? And they're like, yeah, for a couple of years.
Huge sparks of light when the missiles struck this building.
Her name's
one of them says that we were...
Sorry, but it is.
He says that we ran out of our homes with our families and children. The kids were terrified and shocked, and everyone was screaming. He says, another resident I have spoken with, he says that the streets were filled with people fleeing in fear and unsure of what was happening. A sense of fear, uncertainty, and trauma is not limited to this part only, but as we walk through the city, we can see that the impact of this attack is on everyday life is quite visible. Streets are quiet, but atmosphere is quite tense, and people are trying to make sense of what happened last night.
Thanks to Farhat for that. Well, India.
Yeah, thanks, Vid.
Moving over now to rising tensions in Southeast Asia, Pakistan said 26 people are dead after India carried out strikes over across the border into Pakistani-administered territory. Now, this is an escalation, not unexpected. It comes just 2 weeks after the deadly attack that happened in Kashmir. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Chanel Call, who's following this story from our newsroom. Chanel, what's the latest on these strikes? Pakistan saying that these are seen as an act of war.
Yeah, that's right, Reed. These two countries now essentially on the brink of war.
Okay, I kind of don't seem that concerned anymore because it's just in Sudan, when it comes to their different military groups, it's just yet another town that they've gone into and they burned to the floor and murdered and engaged in mass rape of hundreds of people. In Syria, it's like, 900 people dead in like a month or two. These militias running through. Lieutenant Barbecue in Haiti, it's like, 100 people burnt to a crisp and their heads are put on pikes. Here it's just like, hey, they're conducting all these airstrikes and missile strikes. They haven't even gotten to 100 dead people yet.
Yeah, thanks, Obama.
Those strikes into Pakistan early Wednesday morning local time were apparently in response to that terror attack that took place in Kashmir about 2 weeks ago, as you mentioned, killing 26 civilians, mostly Indian Hindu tourists. Now, we know India has blamed Pakistan for the attack, which notably, Reed, was the deadliest attack against civilians in India in about 17 years. Overnight, the Indian government retaliated. It says that its forces had struck 9 sites in Pakistan, and then this morning, Pakistani officials say the overall death toll had now risen to at least 31 people. Pakistan's prime minister described the attack as an act of war and vowed to respond. And remember,
dude, if this was any other two countries fighting each other, it would have been like, so far, 3,100 people have died so far.
These are two nuclear-armed countries. Both sides, Reed, have weapons that can really do some major damage. We're seeing an international response to this unfolding this hour. President Donald Trump responding to these rising tensions, calling this, quote, a shame. Take a listen to what he said.
No, it's a shame. We just heard about it just as we were walking in the doors of the Oval. Just heard about it. I guess people
of the Oval
knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. You know, they've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it.
Doesn't know his history.
He's very concerned about
because it's not. It would be one thing. So before they were part of the British Empire, it was the Mongol Empire that both territories fell under. And
the Golden Horde.
Like I said before, it was more, I guess, heterogeneous when it came to the dispersal of the two religious groups. So it was the British Mandate that made it so these two regions kind of had more evenly distributed, I guess, group placed in those territories. So this sort of in-group, out-group sort of confrontation between the two regions really did not start until post-World War II.
It ends very quickly.
I didn't say Mongol, I said Mongol, or...
Mongol.
Did you call me a monkey?
No, not the Mongol, it was the MU,
Are you talking about Genghis Khan? Is that what you're talking about?
Genghis Khan?
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
Yeah,
well,
the guy
you said Genghis Khan.
Yeah, the Pokemon. Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Okay, it was the Mughal Empire, Mughal. The Mughal.
It's pronounced Miguel.
No, that's
Mughal.
not how it's pronounced.
The Mughal. Yeah. Mughul. Mughal.
I think I said it properly the first time, but now that Bill Hicks is being an asshole, it's wait, how do you say it?
Rubio also chiming in. He said on X that he was monitoring the situation closely, adding
the
that Washington would
Mughal
continue to engage
Empire.
the Asian neighbors to
Yeah, the Golden Horde.
Chanel, the president mentioned and harken back to the history between those two countries. What is he talking about there?
Right, I mean, this is a place that has seen decades of conflict, this region, but this all started during the partition. When the British rule ended in India in 1947, Pakistan and India became two different countries.
See?
India was a home
When
to
Britain left in 1947.
Yeah.
The two sides have been fighting repeatedly. They've seen repeated wars since that partition in 1947, with Kashmir remaining a flashpoint. But this bombing, this is a huge and significant escalation, and the whole world is now watching.
Chanel Call, thank you so much for helping us see and understand not only what's happened in recent hours, but also the history there. I have a feeling we'll be talking a lot about this with you in the days and weeks ahead. So let's bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie Daggett. Charlie, what could these renewed conflicts be?
Thanks, Fed.
Hey, what? Oh, hi. Oh my God.
Imagine just you're walking to work and hey, a building blows up.
Imagine you call customer service and it's not the same guy.
ओए था कोई दिसता जहांगीर तो क्या बिहारियां पे चलते यार तुम मौत ही कश्मीर की इंडिया
So how much do you think it will escalate? Billions and billions, Mark says. So I guess we're gonna be on Pakistan's side this time. Why is there no consistency? It seems like it never stops, and every time we get involved in some proxy war, get weapons and training, it seems like nothing gets better in those regions. And wasn't colonialism to help out these other countries? So do you think Britain did a good job with
Yeah,
their
never mind the
assistance,
details.
bringing them into modernity with their colonizing.
We're keeping a very close eye on the rising tensions between India and Pakistan. Early this morning, India launched missile strikes in
Trying to say it like a redneck, Shad.
Oh, you did a really bad job.
to Pakistan. Pakistan is
son
calling
of a
this an act of war, saying that 26 people were killed, 46 hurt.
Retarded.
India says that the strikes were aimed at terror.
Isn't modernity like a racial slur to a redneck, though?
I guess.
In Punjab, in response
like
to
a
deadly
poor
attack last month
person
that killed
trying to
26
take a
people
shit.
in India-controlled Kashmir. Kashmir is actually a disputed region that both nuclear-armed countries have fought over for years.
We are prepared for all of war also. This is absolutely no doubt, because India is increasing.
Yeah, Elijah Carter says Pakistan and India should be left alone to fight. I 100% agree. This is one of those disputes where I think nobody needs to get involved.
The intensity increasing, the stakes.
Let them fight it
So
out.
experts say this is the most significant escalation between the two countries since the 1999 war.
Joining us now, Foreign Policy Editor-in-Chief Ravi Agrawal. Ravi,
Now, I think what they need to do is every time some dispute happens, the UN needs to have some kind of force that abducts all the top government officials of the two opposing sides. They just sneak in, put bags over their heads, and then they wake up in a school building and they do a lock-in. And they force them to all spend some time for a week and some kind of
leave them with some board games and some cards, snacks.
You make them fight with soccer boppers, and the winner, the winner gets the territory.
We'll have nap time.
Somebody says,
Yeah.
whoa, more conflict in the Middle East. Who could have seen this coming? Pakistan nor India are in the Middle East.
these two nations escalate?
Well, for one, they have nuclear weapons. The optimistic reading
I
is that
can't
they've been here
read,
before. They
so
fought
now
several
it
wars
is.
in 65 and 71. Many skirmishes through the 90s after they both
They're
declared
technically in the Far East or the Southeast.
they had nuclear weapons. And in each of those cases, Katie, we saw that they were able to find...
No, Afghanistan's technically not in the Middle East. And then there's the Central East, which is all those ex-Soviet states like Kazakhstan and stuff. What is it? Uzbekistan?
ways to de-escalate. One of the things that worries me about this particular moment is that India feels less restrained than it has in previous years, in part because it's looking at what has happened in Israel after October 7 and saying that it too has the right to defend itself from terrorism, but also because it sees the world order as having fundamentally shifted. And it is more unrestrained than it's ever been because it doesn't see any other big power as having either the inclination or the ability to check it. So all of this suggests that India's very tough action overnight yesterday it may want to do more, but of course...
Oxby says same thing. So, do you think of the Middle East when you think of India?
Pakistan might want to respond in its own way. So this is the worst point we've seen between these two countries in at least 5 years.
You're saying they feel unrestrained. What
I
in the
think
past
of
has
Canada.
been the restrainer? What has limited escalation?
I think Jamaica.
Well, for one, again, the nuclear...
India is preparing for retaliation after firing missiles at Pakistan earlier today. We know that more than 20 people have died in that attack. India says those strikes were retaliation for militant attacks.
Okay, here, let's see. Okay, so it seems like they're not going over anything new. So, hopefully things don't escalate. So far, the kill count's still below 100. So, how bad do you think things will get? Because all the other military conflicts they've had have only gotten into the 4 digits when it comes to casualties. So do you think they'll get into the 5 digits, 6 digits, or...
Yeah.
Since we haven't had a war that was in the 7 digits until the Congo War, the Second Congo War. You think this might be the first 7-digit war?
The second Congo War, where everyone's just like, the second Congo War.
You're thinking of
Not to be racist or anything.
Yeah, all those people complaining earlier when we weren't defending the racist Karen, they acted like we were these big white knights for every race that isn't white, and then look at Crow. We have Crow on here.
No,
He's the king of the racists, aren't you, Crow?
Anyway, work night. We've gone 4 hours. Think that's plenty. And
Great note to end on.
probably, if I feel up to it, tomorrow. If not, I'll do the next day. So Shab and I have decided that just whenever, I'll just text him and be like, hey, let's do a stream, and there we go.
Well, be honest with how you worded. Like,